And we are live. This is the second session of our Three Brothers campaign. And in the first session, a gnomish caravan was winding its way along a compacted dirt road, heading south from the moorland village of Bethan towards the large trading post of Battlebridge. During the journey, a number of people had been accepted onto this caravan and journeyed along with it towards Battlebridge. Amongst them was the Dragonborn Drax, the human wizard Watum, the half-orc Audius, and the half-elven noble Avastar Tholage. Watum learnt from Gudbrand Hemmingson, the leader of the wagon train, that the gnome had seen a similar wand to the one that he possessed, but with white crystals instead of demonic heads, in the possession of a female priest in Battlebridge. On the way there, they encountered a woman named Saphira, whose horses had been killed, and her husband Jan had been stolen by goblin raiders. As they discussed what to do next, they were attacked by the raiders. Luckily, thanks to their magic, they were able to repel the goblins, although Drax was severely injured by their boss, and they discovered the kidnapped young man had been taken to their camp. Following the rough directions, they rescued Jan, although Audius refused to allow them to kill the goblins, insisting that they could change and letting them off with a warning. Arriving in Battlebridge, they booked into the Common Sword, a tavern owned by the elf Brius Conmac, and they discovered that a number of buildings in Battlebridge had recently had problems with graffiti proclaiming that Cortis lives, that was scrawled on the outside of many buildings in chalk. Audius was greatly affected by this, explaining that Cortis the Manslayer was a ruthless bandit who seemed to have survived being beheaded multiple times. Visiting the main Battlebridge guardhouse, after a little bit of bribery and discussion with the guards, they discovered that all the graffiti was done by seemingly unconnected children, and they're able to speak to the most recent vandal. The child claims to have heard the name in a dream of an armoured man and felt compelled to write the name down when he woke up. As the conversation wound to an end, the child suddenly leapt on Audius, grabbing his head in its tiny hands, and in a deep, growling, echoing voice screamed, "Cortis lives." And that's where we're going to be picking up in this session. So before we jump straight into that, I'm going to ask our characters to introduce themselves, say a little bit about their characters. Feel free to plug any YouTube channels that you had. We're going to start with Matthew. Matthew, say a bit about your character and introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I am indeed Matthew, otherwise known as Rhaegar the Dragonborn on YouTube. I am playing Drax, the Copperhue Dragonborn, who is a servant of the great Lord Njord of the Tempest Domain. Drax is on a search for his lost family members of his clan, or the Copper Dragonborns of Draenor. He's came into contact with these interesting fellows along the road, and is hoping to find news of his kin as they search for Audius's identity, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much. Rob, if you can introduce yourself and say a bit about your character.
Sure, I'm Rob, a.k.a. the Swampert. I'm playing Watum. He hails from the south, from a very small village. His village didn't learn until recently that there were any other survivors after the Gith occupation ended, and in their village they discovered a mine, or at least a cave, with some very bizarre ore. And among the things they found in there were 5 wands. Each of his siblings was given a wand, and he was given a wand, and sent off in all different directions to learn the meaning behind these wands. Specifically, my people think that understanding this magic can prevent the Gith from ever being able to return. That said, he's not in a hurry. He's willing to let the journey lead him where it does.
Okay, thank you very much. Tashif, if you can introduce yourself and say a bit about your character, please.
Hello, I'm Tashif. I've been in a lot of games over the past year. Also, I'm playing Audius, a half-orc who's been spending the past 5 years living in a place called Geno's Reach, which is halfway across the world. And he got his wife was murdered, and he got a kind of threatening blackmail letter that mentioned the 3 brothers. So at the moment, he's travelled over here to find the supposed killer. Right now, he's terrified because someone that he literally beheaded and tried to catch in on the bounty is apparently alive and active within Battle Bridge, or near Battle Bridge.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but by no means least, Jenny, if you can please introduce yourself and say a bit about your character.
Certainly. So my name is Jenny, aka the Rogue DM, and I play Avastar Tholej, who is a half-elf of House Tholej and a direct descendant of a red dragon. So his sorceress abilities have come from the red dragon, essentially. He has travelled to the Three Brothers Valley because his parents and his siblings don't really take his abilities seriously, and being the rather stuck-up, hot-headed half-elf that he is, he wants to be able to prove himself to them, and he's attempting to seek out some knowledge of the area and maybe gain an edge on the people there, and try and win over their hearts and minds and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, as I described previously, we are picking up exactly where we left off last session. As you're all stood on the old bridge, this huge expanse of ancient Gith architecture melded with more human construction materials that stretches over the one of the large rivers flowing through Battlebridge. You've just finished talking to this child when, quite out of nowhere, this child literally leaps onto Audius, grabbing hold of his head in his small hands, and in a deep voice that sounds quite out of character coming out of this small child's previously innocent looking face, it pulls itself closer to your slightly surprised face, Audius, and in a deep voice growls at you.
Alright, I grab the child and I'm into Drax like, "You're a priest, aren't you? Do something, he's clearly possessed. Quickly!"
As you're saying this, the kid is thrashing about madly in your grasp, laughing in this strain.
Jesus Christ.
I look to the guards. Help me hold him down.
I'd like to cast a spell if I can.
Yep, not a problem. Rob, what spell are you casting?
I'm going to cast a sleep spell.
Okay, not a problem. Make your roll.
Sure. Sorry, I just got to get my real dice are downstairs. I'm still kind of freaked out by that sound effects. Alright, so 19 hit points are affected. If this thing has 19 hit points or less, it goes to sleep.
Okay, not a problem. You cast your sleep spell. You feel the magic as it leaves you. You're sure you've cast this spell entirely correctly. You can almost feel the magic move into the small thrashing body of this child. As you cast the spell, the child's head literally rotates all the way around, so it's now facing towards you, and it continues this maniacal laughing.
I am going to take a step backwards, maybe two.
The two guards who've been stood there, Aldous and Perseus, who've been sort of stood there with their mouths gaping open, so start walking forward with their spears held out in front of them, still looking quite wary, not really sure how to react. After all, it is a small child.
Put dudes down, he's just a boy. Now come help hold him down.
Yes, you heard him, says Perseus and Aldous. Aldous, go and help him. Go and help him restrain the child. At which point Aldous looks at him, he's like, "What, me?" He's like, "Yes, just go and help him restrain the child." And this dumpy form of Aldous runs over, clanking towards you, and he starts trying to peel this child off you that carries on laughing in this maniacal fashion.
Alright, and I turn to Drax. Like,
He's
come
here.
on, you're a priest, aren't you? He's possessed. Do something.
I will do what I can, my friend. Drax will come over to the child. Is he on the floor at this point?
No, he's basically, if you imagine, he's still on Audius. Audius is going like that, trying to push him off. You've got Aldous behind the kid, trying to pull him off. However, he appears to be possessed of an almost unholy strength, which he's clinging to Audius with, despite having like two grown men trying to peel him off.
Okay, so Drax is going to use one of his spells as well. He's going to reach out with one of his hands and grab the boy's shoulder and look at him in the eye. And with a kind of far off sound, he's going to say the words, "Becalm your soul." And he's going to use the command spell. I don't know if you have to say for that, John.
Okay. Have you made your roll to cast it?
Do I have to cast it? I don't know if it's... I've never used it.
I believe it's a wisdom save on the part of the defendant.
Yes, it is a wisdom
At
save.
your spell DC, which will be 12 or 13 or 14.
It's 12 currently.
Yeah, and you give him a one-word command.
Okay, so what's your one-word command? Is it calm or...?
Relax.
Okay, not a problem. As you lay your hand on him, you say, "Relax." The maniacal laughter stops, and this child's face turns round with a noticeable creaking sound from the neck as it revolves back to its original position. It's the child still staring at you through these wide eyes, this maniacal grin etched on its face.
I'm going to approach this child as well and look him directly in the eye, and I'm simply going to whisper some words under my breath. I'm attempting to detect magic on this child.
Okay, make your roll to cast that spell.
No roll required.
No,
In Drax's
No
medical
roll.
opinion, that is magic.
No roll required. Okay.
And
You are
technically-
indeed sensing that this child is chock full of magic.
You also need to tell me the school of magic. If
what
there
skill is
one.
the command spell?
Okay, you're not actually sensing any school of magic as though he's had a spell cast on him. However, as you sort of reach out with this magic, a vague smell of sort of sulfur, and you can hear the crackling of burning fires somewhere nearby, and you feel a wave of heat wash over you as you cast this spell on this now calm but still quite insane looking child.
Oh, can anyone smell sulfur? It's awfully hot.
Why are
I
you
thought that was you,
complaining
Alistair.
about the smell right now?
The child continues to speak Audius, although it's in a much calmer, albeit still strange voice, and it says,
No idea what it's trying to say, as if it's echoing in some great hall.
The child is obviously possessed by some magic. He needs to be seen to by some expert.
It looks like you're a few steps behind us on this one. I stand up, assuming the other guard has, like, kind of isn't struggling with this child anymore.
the child continues to shout, although it's in a very calm voice. You can just about make out the word villain in what it says. And then in this strange, eerie voice, which I'll revert to in my normal voice now that you've got an idea of what it actually sounds like. It says, "And what will you do this time, you villain? Will you let this child die, or will you cut my head off once again?"
I look to the guard that hasn't restrained the child. Looks like you need to imprison him again.
At this point, Perseus does run over and he sort of grabs hold of the child's shoulder. Aldous has got hold of his legs, and between the two of them, they're able to wrench him off you. He doesn't actually really seem to be struggling now. He seems quite calm, quite collected, albeit he's still got this mad grin on his face, and his eyes are almost popping out of his head. They're staring that much.
As they do that, do I have the few seconds to say a short prayer to the kid?
Yeah, not a problem. What sort of thing do you say in your prayer?
I grasp my holy symbol and I sort of hold his brow gently, because obviously I've got massive dragonborn hands. And I say, "Be calm, child. The creature that is in you will be suckered out. We will help you. Stay safe."
Hey, do you need any help in securing the child?
The two of them are sort of carrying off. Like I said, the child seems quite calm now. You notice its eyes are following you, Audius, even as they're carrying it away. Perseus says, "No, he seems calm enough now. I think we'll be able to get him."
Well, I'm going to help anyway.
Right, you are. I'm not going to turn down the extra help. Come with us, Aldous. We'll put him in one of the holding cells in the tower, and they start sort of carrying him almost like a bag or a carpet towards this tower.
And I'll go with them.
Okay, they open the door. As you head in, you can see there's a flight of stairs heading up at the far end of this tower, and there's like a series of small holding cells, effectively, with metal doors with bars in them. Aldous says, "Are you two going to be all right with him? I'm going to have to let him go to get my keys."
Do it.
Perseus just like, "Just hurry up, in case he decides to start wriggling again." Aldous says, "Right, Yoni, let's go with the legs of this child." Fiddles around on his belt, pulls out a big metal loop of keys and starts flicking through these keys before putting one in the lock of one of these holding cells, pulling the door open. Quick, Perseus, get him in there. Perseus says, "What do you think I am doing?" And the two of you drag him into this holding cell. So literally, like, there's just a small sort of bed, sort of straw mattress at the far end, and a water bowl and a small metal tray, which you presume food might go on. Perseus literally like dumps him down on this bed and then like disappears out of that cell like faster than you've seen him move in all the time you've seen him.
And is the other one, Aldous, still there?
Aldous is like peeping round the door that he's opened. He's not gone in the cell.
Yeah. So I'm out of there and the cell is secured.
Indeed, as soon as you come out, Aldous slams the cell door shut, and you hear like, as he locks the door with his bunch of keys, and he's like, "What the bloody hell happened there?" Perseus is like,
know.
Excellent question.
How many other children have been writing Corsus's name? I think there's something foul afoot, and I think the children of this town are in great danger.
Perseus looks at you and he says, "Well, must be at least 10 of the little blighters, as far as I'm aware. Obviously, we've not seen anything like this." And he points at the door of the cell. He said, "The other ones, they just came in. They said they had a dream about it. We let them off with a warning, a bit of a slap round the ear, bit of community service, got them to clean it off, and let them on their way. Put a bit of the frighteners on them, but nothing like this."
When something magical happens in this town, who is in charge of dealing with it?
He says, "Well, we don't really have any great wizards as such in the town, so to speak. They're pretty rare. We occasionally get one go through. There's none in resident, as far as I'm aware."
You're lucky that one of our traveling companions happens to be a wizard, and
you seem to know something of this. How do you come by this knowledge?
Me?
I am speaking to you. I look around. Like, is there someone else in my field of vision?
Yeah, the two guards.
The two guards are like, "No, he's talking to you, mate."
What do you mean?
Well,
I already told you about
you spoke of children being in danger. You seemed certain. You mentioned Cortid's name 3 times.
Remember at the tavern? The broken sword, not the common sword. I told you about my encounter with Cortus.
But you said you killed him.
and encountered another person who killed him. Clearly that is not enough.
Whilst this conversation is going on, what's Avastar up to?
Avastar isn't really sure what to do at this point because he's sort of contemplating why he could smell the sulfur and feel the heat, and I suppose he's sort of wondering if he passed anywhere on his travels that could bear some kind of resemblance to a location.
Okay, you could certainly make me a law check or something similar.
Yep. Okay, something like a nature roll.
Yeah, you could make me a nature roll, see if you've encountered anything like that on your travels.
Okay. I certainly haven't.
Okay, you probably know that there are deposits of sulfur that can be found in some rocky areas, etc. But you'd expect to be able to see it. You've not encountered anything where it's just the smell and this heat, even though there was no heat source around you, and you could almost hear the fires crackling, but yet there was no fire.
I'm going to see if the child starts getting worse again.
As you look through the sort of vision slit in the door where there's the two bars, you can see the child is sat up on the mattress, and it's just staring at the door like.
I look away. That's disturbing me quite a lot. Audius, is there any reason why the child is smiling at me?
I'm just trying to creep you out, but John, we need all our heads together for this one. To answer your question with whom, it's just merely following the facts. As you know, the exact possibilities of magic are not known to anyone, but what we've found is that there's graffiti written of this dead person. We know that children have been doing it. If this child says that he did it because he got dreams, it's reasonable to assume that the other children who have been writing it, the other 10 children, and I gesture at one of the guards, just to indicate that he's confirmed this, the other 10 children must also be having these dreams. And this child now looks like he's clearly possessed, which must mean that the other 10 children are on the verge of possession, merely following the facts.
Avastar, as you're stood near the door, you're looking away so you don't see this freakish face of this manically grinning child. You hear from inside the cell, you hear like a...
Is the child sort of scratching at something?
As you turn your face back and look in, you see the child appears to have picked up a small, like, chipping of stone that was lying on the floor, and he appears to be slowly scratching something into the wall of the cell.
Hey, come and look what he's doing. He's writing something.
What?
I'll look.
Okay, you can see that the child is writing something in very shaky common. It's taking quite some time due to the hardness of the stone wall. And after a few minutes, you see it write a complete sentence, and it appears to be repeating the same sentence over and over again. The sentence, 3 will become 4.
Huh?
What on earth does that mean?
I stare at the words. Would you allow me to make some sort of investigation check to gain any insight into what that could mean? Or is it too vague at this point?
I'd say you could make an investigation check. It'll be quite difficult, but you can certainly give it a go.
Okay. Okay. It's a 16.
Okay, you do know that the number 3, there's a number of different figures that are very significant to practitioners of the arcane arts. You don't know exactly why. As you say, magic's very couched in mystery. The people who understand it hold their secrets very close to their chest. You know the numbers 3, 5, and a number of other figures are quite significant. You're not entirely sure why.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
You spoke of facts. The facts, as you spoke them, were that you killed this Cortus, and then someone else killed this Cortus, and yet this Cortus is not dead. All of these facts cannot be true.
Which means that Cortus clearly is not a singular individual.
Perhaps your definition of the word killed is not what mine is.
I removed his head. I don't know, perhaps he's some other creature. Perhaps he only exists within the minds of others. I point to the clearly disturbed child. Watum, do you know of anything that could possess children like this?
I suppose there are diseases, magical effects, even something as I gesture to Drax, even something as he did, has an effect on the mind and the behavior of others. This is perhaps a stronger version.
So this could be an evil wizard?
Certainly strong magic is at work.
Strong enough that things were bleeding out that I could perceive. There was the sulfur, the aroma of the sulfur. I could even hear fires crackling when I looked at this child.
What? What do you mean?
Remember when I looked into his eyes? I could smell sulfur. I could feel heat.
Watum, can you please make me an Arcana roll as Avastar is mentioning the sulfur, the fires, etc.?
Is it only him? I have Arcana too.
If you have the Arcana skill, you can make a roll.
Okay. 17.
16.
Okay.
13.
Okay, anyone who got over 15 on that roll, you do know there are such creatures as devils, demons, all manner of bizarre sort of spiritual entities which are supposed to have certain phenomena that are associated with them entering the world. Odd smells, milk souring, animals going ballistic, that sort of thing.
Okay, since I got higher than a 15, that means I would get the information on devils and demons. So, not knowing what specific type of demon it is, but having the researcher feat, would I know where I can go to find such information, if such information even exists?
You know that there are certain practitioners of the magical arts who are alleged to have dealt with such creatures throughout history. Perhaps if you could find one of them or their writings, that would help shed some light on this case.
If whatever they're saying is correct, then this could be the work of a hellish entity. Possibly.
Is Cortus the name of this entity, or is he merely the name of his first victim? Start rubbing the top of my bald head again.
I suddenly glance at the... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jenny.
I was going to say, did Cortus have any magical leanings before he died?
The one that attacked me just used a sword.
So he was just simply a bandit of some kind. He didn't know any magic or practiced anything. Well then,
Well-
yes, it seems that some higher power is using him.
Or his name.
Or yes, simply his name, since it obviously strikes some fear into you and the locals.
As you're all having this discussion, you hear footsteps coming down the sort of spiral stairs in the tower, and a very large, fat man wearing immaculate-looking robes with furs around his neck comes walking down the stairs, and he's like, walking on a cane. You can hear the of the cane as it heads down the stairs. He looks over at the two guards and he says, "You there, men, what's all this bloody noise about? I'm trying to count upstairs. I can't concentrate with all this damn racket." One of the guards looks at him and he says, I'm terribly sorry, Demodocus. We're just having a bit of trouble with it. You know, that graffiti case." "Oh, that graffiti case? I thought that was all closed and dealt with. Some vagabonds. Why, it wouldn't have happened in my day. I'd give them a slap round the face. That's what I'd do to them." And he waves his stick in the guard's direction. They nod. Perseus and Aldous nod and say, "Oh, yeah, yes, of course." He says, "Well, just make sure you keep the bloody noise down. These taxes aren't going to count themselves." And he turns around and starts making his way back up the stairs. "Just you keep that bloody noise down." Yes, Demodocus, we'll do our best to keep him quiet." And you hear this fat, blubbering man muttering to himself as he walks up the stairs, his cane clacking on the stone cobbles.
That wasn't the guard captain, was it?
Perseus looks at you and he says, no, that was Lascaris. He's the financier, the tax collector. He does work directly for Telamon, though, and obviously Lord Bothron. So he's a very important person. We should probably try and keep him quiet and not disturb him. It'll probably be better for all of us.
Important, yes, but he sounds incredibly ignorant about the nature of this child.
Well,
I
to
have
be
traveled
fair,
for
everyone
quite
was.
some distance, and I have never noticed a tax collector who is liked anywhere. But this one is particularly. I look at Ordius and say, "Odious."
Aldous chuckles a bit as you say that, and he leans in and whispers. He goes, "Well, yeah. To be honest, he's not greatly liked throughout the city, but well, he's got the patronage of Lord Bothron, and he is a town official. So, what can you do? He's got a lot of pull in Battlebridge."
One could leave town.
Travel isn't always an option to everyone, but
Perseus looks
Anyway.
over and he says, "Well, to be honest, if much more of this happens, I'll be giving some serious consideration to that option." And he clicks his fingers vaguely in your direction and says, "Sorry, what was your name again, sir?"
Who are you speaking to?
"Yourself."
I am Watu.
"Oh, yeah, yes. Sorry about that. Your name clearly went out of my head with all this weirdness going on. If all of this sort of thing keeps happening more often, I'll be giving serious consideration to the leaving town option, Watu. I don't get paid enough for this shit."
How much would be sufficient?
He says, I tell you what, give me 100 gold pieces and I'm out of here."
No,
I've got-
you misunderstand. You said you were not paid enough for this shit. How much would be enough for this shit?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you, Watu. Before today, I'd not really given much thought to how much extra pay I'd ask for dealing with. Do you say possessed children? It's not really something that crossed my mind, to be honest. I'd be asking for at least double time, though. I've got my heart set on a nice little cottage, somewhere near Cadell Way or something along those lines. Nice bit of forest. Just settle down in my retirement. Not have to deal with people mugging people on the streets or stealing stuff. Just enough to see myself through. That'd do me. I'm not a greedy man.
so if you were to get double pay for this, how much extra money would you get?
He says, "Oh well, I'd be on I'd be getting at least 10 gold pieces," and he sort of rubs his hands together as though he's almost thinking about them 10 gold pieces hitting his hands.
So what you're saying is that this job is worth at least 10 gold pieces?
Yeah, he pauses for a few moments as though he's worried you're trying to trick him in some sort of word play, and then he says, "Yeah, I suppose I am, really."
So what you're saying is a bunch of specialized, skilled individuals came into town and helped the guard deal with this problem, they would probably be paid 10 gold pieces.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
I accept your offer of employment.
He looks confused for a minute, and then he goes, "Oh, I see what you're trying to do there." He says, "Don't get me wrong, if it were down to me, I'd employ you like that. You all seem to be quite handy, but to be honest, the hiring and firing of people is not really within my remit." He says it's Talamon who does all the hiring and firing.
And is he too important to speak to?
Well, normally you have to have an appointment to speak to him. His diary's pretty full. You know, matters of the town, planning, security, various things. We've been having reports that there's like goblin raiders attacking people on the outskirts. All manner of stuff. It's like that's where the whole world's gone crazy.
Where might one find this Talamond?
Well, he says, if you go up them stairs, well, we've got old Demodocus is on the first floor in the counting house. Then we've got the floor above that is where Talamon is, and the floor above that is well, you won't be going on the floor above that, so it doesn't really matter. No one gets up there without an invitation.
But suppose we did this job anyway. Would you help us make our case for compensation for work already done?
Well, yeah, I'd certainly be willing to stand there and say you've been a great help, and I'd obviously put it forward as much as the word of a humble town guardsman is worth anything. And he leans in a bit closer and whispers, "To be honest, I'd be a bit careful about doing things on credit. Old Demodocus doesn't miss a trick. He's got a fairly tight hand on the purse strings. I'm pretty sure that if you did the job and then tried to get the money afterwards, he'd probably say, well, I don't need to pay you, it's already dealt with." He's a bit canny like that.
You're showing rare wisdom here. It would seem that this is something important to you, this Cortus. And it would seem to be something the town is willing to pay for. I think it would be wise indeed to seek out this Talamond and ask him for recompense for our efforts, that we may continue.
Now, I was just a humble bookbinder before I came over here. I didn't negotiate much for pay.
As you're saying that, Aldous is sort of peering curiously at your prosthetic fingers, and he's like, "A bookbinder? How'd that work then?"
Well, would bind books. Come to us with their works, and
it's like, well, I don't mean to seem rude, sir, but he points at your wooden fingertips. He's like, wouldn't that be a bit difficult with, you know?
It took great, and so I learned patience.
Wow, fair enough. So, all respect to you. I suppose the world needs more books.
Yes, it does. So, do any of the three of you wish to negotiate with this Talamon?
I have little skills in negotiating or this land. I look to the other two.
Well, you are a noble, you deal with money, but you can say you have your god on your side, and that's often convincing.
Indeed, I'm not really one who's motivated by money, but I am disturbed by someone who would use a child to pass on a message in such a way. We should find this person.
I suppose I could convince him. Or try to.
I am in favor of that.
I do agree with the guard, though, if we go out of our way to do this and then simply ask for money, he will not give us any.
Yes. So, are we agreed that Avastar should do the negotiations?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
A good deed is its own reward.
I point up those stairs, then those stairs.
Alright, and Avastar, be sure to mention that our group contains an expert in the arcane arts, a highly regarded cleric, and someone with specialized information, inside knowledge about this event.
As you're saying that, Perseus looks at you, Avastar, and says, do you want me to take you up and see if you can reach some sort of arrangement?
That would be very good, thank you.
All right, then follow me. It's a bit of a walk. Like I say, it's 2 floors up, and he starts walking. So it shoulders his spear, and he starts walking towards the spiral stone staircase at the far end of the tower.
Okay.
You continue up past one level where there's a door in a corridor. You can hear this coming from behind the door. You notice Perseus sort of like almost creeps past the door as he goes past, and then carries on up the stairs. You reach the 2nd floor. This is a good deal more grand looking than the previous floors you've been past. There are tapestries hanging on the walls, quite a lot of finery draped over everything here, and there's a fairly ornately carved wooden door. Perseus walks towards it, and with the butt of his spear he hammers on the door, and you hear an imperious voice from inside say, "Yes, what is it?" Lord Telamon, sir, I don't mean to disturb you. It's me, Perseus. I've got a younger person of noble persuasion here who wishes to speak to you. The few moments of silence, then you hear a voice say, Well, it makes sense that a noble would immediately seek me out upon entering the town of Battlebridge. Show them in, show them in. At which point Perseus opens the door and gestures for you to go inside.
Okay. I go inside and I try to play up my elvish looks, my sort of tall figure, that kind of thing. Does this guard come in with me, or does he stay outside?
He stays outside.
Okay.
I'll go in, but I'm just going to like stand against the wall and look around.
Not a problem. As you look around, again, this room is draped in all manner of finery. There are tapestries, there is ornate tablecloths finely embroidered over a number of tables in here. There is an elaborately carved wooden writing desk, and behind it sits a tall, thin man. He's wearing the traditional plate of the guard. He has a metal helmet on with a large red feather sticking out of it. He has his hands tented together. There's a quill and ink pot on his desk, a number of bits of parchment spread out on the desk. As you enter Avastar, he looks up at you, gestures to a chair on the other side of his desk and says, please sit down, will you? And he picks up his quill and then says, and who do I have the pleasure of addressing?
My lord, my name is Avastar of House Tholage.
Avastar Tholage. Very good. And what can I do for one of the noble scions of House Tholage on this fine day?
It is indeed a fine day, but unfortunately I have discovered there appears to be a rather strange disturbance in your town of children causing huge violation to your very grand architecture.
It is a small concern, I'll grant you, but nothing I don't believe that my men can deal with. A small amount of petty vandalism. After all, it's only chalk. There's no lasting damage to any of the monuments, and we make the miscreants clean it off themselves.
Forgive me, but I am a dragonborn, and I had the displeasure of encountering one of these children, and I fear that there is far more to this than simply small children going around vandalizing with chalk. These children, they seem to be magically possessed.
He furrows his brow for a few moments and says, "If you don't mind me saying so, sir, you don't have the look of a dragonborn about you. I was led to believe they were rather more scaly."
Well, I'm myself not a dragonborn of race, but in terms of my arcane abilities, I am descended from a red dragon.
Ah, interesting, interesting. And you say there has been some further development in this matter, is that correct?
Yes, indeed. I was talking to some guards of my companions, and they had one of these children with them. He turned. His personality changed completely in front of us, and it's almost as if, I suppose, in layman's terms, a disembodied voice was talking through this child.
Well, that is indeed troubling. And, what has moved you to come and speak to me about this matter?
Well, there are several more people in my party. One of them has insider information on what the child was speaking of. Someone called Cortis. This companion of mine, he has encountered Cortis before. He is a rather notorious bandit, so I hear. And I was hoping for some employment from you in order to hopefully rectify this matter and get to the bottom of why these children have been possessed and why they speak of a notorious bandit who has been dead for quite some time.
Ah, I see. It's a matter of financial gain for you then.
Well, me personally, I do not need the financial gain, but I see that this could be an ongoing problem in the town, and I think, personally, if it is not nipped in the bud, it can become a lot more of a problem for you, sir.
Okay. At this point, can you please make me a persuasion roll, Avastar?
Certainly. That's an 11.
Okay, he nods slightly and says, yes, I could see how this could reflect badly on the reputation of the town. It wouldn't do my guards any great deal of good, reputation-wise, either to have this affair drag on for too long.
We have heard merchants complaining as well.
As you say that to me, he frowns and says, well, that is indeed more troubling, since Battlebridge relies on the patronage of its merchants and tradesmen for its continued existence. Troubling. And tell me, Avastar of House Tholage, what is it that you are proposing? Some sort of monetary exchange for you to deal with this matter? You'll forgive me if I sound a little bit sceptical, but after all, well, aside from the fact that you claim to be a member of House Tholage, I really don't know anything about you, despite your professions to have some insider information with regards to this.
Indeed, I assume that you would not know much about me anyway, and that you would seek some proof. Certainly for the short term, I could ask that my companion with the insider information come and speak to you, if that is not something that will be a problem for you. But also I can go with my companions and seek proof of this creature, or perhaps something worse, that is possessing these children, and hopefully eradicate it from your town.
Well, that sounds most agreeable, but first let me speak to your servant, have him brought up here, and have him regale me with this information that he possesses.
I give a little smirk that he thinks that he's my servant, but I look to Atum as though to say which one of us should go down and tell him.
I'll go, but before I leave, I will say, collectively, our group has a unique set of skills that can be very efficient in solving such problems, you will find. And I'm going to leave, and I will go downstairs to look for Ordius.
Just while you guys are up there, before Atum comes down, I was going to go up to the cell with the child in it, and I was the child and say, and that is Infernal for "Do you speak this language?"
The child responds in the same growled language and says, Yes, of course I do. It's good to see you have not forgotten everything.
What's that supposed to mean?
The child laughs and in the same growled infernal language says, Do not think you will cheat me out of my rightful prize simply by the fact that you live.
What the hell do you mean by that? Getting really agitated, start yelling at Infernal.
Okay, Drax, as far as you're concerned, Audius has just like moved up to the faceplate, the view screen through this door, and has basically gone to what's that hand? It's the door. And the child has replied in a similar fashion. You can see that Audius is getting worked up and he's shouting and sort of gesturing, but you've no idea what he's actually saying unless you speak Infernal.
Drax does not, unfortunately. Drax just reaches out a hand and just taps him on the shoulder and goes, "Are you okay?" Yes. Expecting him to start turning around and start saying Cortus lives, he just sort of tenses up a little bit.
One thing you have noticed, Drax, is that when Audius and the child were speaking this strange language, which is almost painful to hear, that it was almost as though the light in the room filtering from outside seemed to dim slightly as though pronouncing these syllables. Like I say, it was almost painful to listen to it, although you couldn't tell what it exactly said.
Audius, what are you doing to that child?
Speaking in its own tongue.
It doesn't seem to be helping. And what tongue is that?
I presume, Drax, that you speak Draconic.
I do indeed speak Draconic.
At which point you hear the hissing voice of the child speaking in the sibilant tones of your mother tongue, Draconic, and it says the words, "Alone, always alone."
What? What language is that? Bang
The
on
language
the
of
door.
my people.
What?
Drax responds with a fierce smile directed at the kid. "I am alone no longer."
The child smiles and says nothing further.
Right after he says that, Watum goes, "Audius, you are wanted upstairs."
What for? Everstar was supposed to do the negotiations.
Okay, Watum, as you've come downstairs, so Audius is like holding on to the metal bars, quite a look of anger on his face, and he sort of snaps around you and says, "Well, I thought Avastar was dealing with the negotiations."
And he also knows that I'm like sweating a lot and I clearly look agitated.
Yes, well, apparently, he suggested that your story, your connection to this Cortus, might make negotiations go smoother. Unless you prefer to hang on to that cage.
Very well. I look at the child and I just whisper under my breath in common, "Tongue of lies," and then I follow you upstairs.
As you head upstairs, again you hear in common the piping voice of this child drift after you up the stairs, saying, "I will have what's owed me, Audius." And you hear its laughter fading away behind you as you head up the stairs. Leaving just Drax, assuming Watum accompanies Audius back up, just leaving Drax alone with this possessed child.
But I do so ironically.
Alright. I opened the door to this guy's office. Alright, what is it you needed to know?
I shoot a look when I realise that obviously Audius is agitated, and I hope to sort of visually say to him, just calm down a bit. Don't fuck this up.
As you say that, Telemon raises his eyebrows and looks over at you, Avastar, and says, "Oh, a troll. That's very progressive of you, Avastar of
What
House
did you just call me?
Forgive me, my lord, he is not a troll.
Well,
He,
troll, orc, goblin. We collectively call them all trolls in Battlebridge.
I see. Yes, we also make sort of collective abbreviations for things in my part of the wood, shall we say, and I start sort of guffawing a bit sort of poshly. I shoot another look at Audius and say, my lord simply wanted to hear your story in order to get a better picture of what is going on. He is prepared to offer us...
from the beginning?
Well, not from the beginning, but he is prepared indeed to offer us employment. He just simply wants to hear how you are connected to all of this.
If you could give me the abridged version, I'm afraid my race is not as long-lived as our noble friend here, and I do have other matters to be attending to. Just the important facts, if you'd be so kind.
Alright, so I should probably just relay the information. Alright, I found quarters on the road in Geno's Reach once, all the way halfway across the world. He attacked me, I killed him, found out he was a wanted criminal, tried to turn him in. Turns out someone else was trying to turn him in. 2 people had his heads. It didn't make sense. Nothing ever came of this until I recently arrived in Battlebridge, where people were writing his name on buildings. Of course, I was curious, and then we found that this child was possessed by some sort of demonic entity.
I see. Now, you say demonic entity. I would admit I have precious little experience of matters of the arcane. I prefer to deal more in the worldly realms, as such as they are. How were you able to identify the precise nature of this being, this fantastical creature that you're talking about?
I tested it, and it spoke the infernal tongue, the language of lies.
Has it occurred to you then, my friend, as you describe it as the language of lies, that this creature may be lying to you? I'm sorry if I seem like I'm stating the obvious here.
It's not. It didn't identify itself as a demon. We discovered it was one.
I see. Calm down, my friend. There's no need for you to get agitated. I'm simply trying to establish the facts.
The creature also displayed abnormal strength and magic resilience for a child so young.
And if that doesn't convince you, it turned its head right around. 360 degrees. That's a perfect circle.
And spoke in a most
he looks a little more worried when you say that.
Certainly one that was not capable for a child to say.
Now, please forgive me for asking all these questions, but I will be expected to make a full report to my Lord Bothron, and I will need to put as many salient details in this report as I possibly can. So forgive me if I seem like I'm repeating myself or I'm asking unnecessary questions, but I have to make sure my report is thorough and as detailed as possible so that my Lord has accurate information upon which to base any decision about further action. Now, I believe
we are content and indeed eager to prove our capabilities to you such that it might lead to future employment.
I see. Yes, your noble lord here was explaining to me the matter of finances, that you are seeking employment, and I'm certainly amenable to the idea of it. We do have a small amount of money available to us for hiring specialists to deal with particular matters.
And a large number of problems.
Yes, we do have a small amount of money for hiring specialists, as I was saying. But, of course, I'll need to actually have some idea of what these professed abilities are that you pertain to have. I can't just go around hiring anyone willy-nilly. Of course, that would deplete my cash reserves like that.
Okay. So I'm going to make the pipe he's smoking. You said he was smoking a pipe. Did I get that right?
Indeed. That's correct.
I'm going to make the pipe he's smoking all of a sudden like flare up, and then the smoke will form into a dragon and go, and then slowly dissipate. And I'm going to do that with just like a minor gesture, like.
Not a problem. He starts backwards as this smoky dragon rises from his pipe, and then after it dissipates, he looks at the pipe for a few moments as though he's trying to work out where it actually came from, and then he says, that is indeed most impressive. Unfortunately, we have few arcane specialists in town, and certainly none that we keep on a permanent retainer. That's the, and forgive me for saying this, I don't mean to speak out of turn, that's the problem with these arcane types. You're hiring them one minute, the next they're running off on some madcap scheme because they need some ingredients for one of their incantations, or they're writing a book or some other foolishness. Terribly unreliable.
Well, perhaps if the pay offered to them was sufficient to keep them around, they would not be so quick to leave.
I can certainly assure you that I'm not going to be looking for ingredients anytime soon. I can simply manifest things without such an ingredient for now, but I'm eager as well to prove things to you and hopefully gain some kind of reputation in Battlebridge. I don't intend to go anywhere.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't be able to pay you the standard going rate, so I'm not going to be employing you on a permanent basis as I do the rest of my guardsmen. It would be on a case-by-case basis. You would be, I suppose, consultants would be the best way of describing it. We would call you in when we have a matter that I believe my guards, they try their best, but most of them are from simple stock. They have little experience with this sort of thing. As I say, any payment would be on a purely case-by-case basis. Would that be acceptable to you, my lord?
I take a look at the others and I say, it is acceptable, however, I think that you should take note of how valuable we are going to be.
Oh, I assure you, my lord, I will be making great attention to how valuable you are. I insist on getting value for what I'm paying for.
And how would that happen? How would you be taking great note of us?
How would I be taking great note of? Well, I would insist that you were accompanied by at least one, perhaps two of my guards who would report back to me at regular intervals, just to make sure you're not wandering off and penning a great tome of arcane significance or something like that and neglecting your duties.
I am a little wary of that, considering this could get quite dangerous. It might be quite risky to have mere guards accompany us.
Indeed.
Yes, he bristles slightly when you say mere guards.
You're hiring us to solve problems. When the problem is solved, you would compensate us fairly. It's a simple barter.
As I say, he bristles slightly when Avastar says mere guards, and then says, I assure you my guards are extremely well trained, and I insist on detailed reports of all their activities, whether they be verbal or written. I am accountable to Lord Goth Bothran himself. I cannot have people simply running about without having some detailed accounts of their whereabouts and their comings and goings. That's not the way we do Battlebridge.
I perfectly understand that. I did not intend to say that they were incompetent in what they do, but in all seriousness, I think that they are certainly incompetent in the Arcana, and the fact that they had no idea what was wrong with these children until we came along and enlightened them.
Your point is well made. I would be prepared to if you can resolve this matter quickly and expediently, I will be prepared to advance you a sum of 5 gold pieces.
I may have to discuss this with my party. As I say, this is a very, well, it could become quite a serious case indeed if what my servant here says is true, that this is an infernal that we are dealing with.
What?
Surely
Well,
you mean
I will leave you to
5
have your
gold pieces
discussion.
as an advance.
I did use the word advance, did I not?
Not clearly.
What I'm suggesting is that I will advance you 5 gold pieces now, and I may give you further remuneration once this matter has been dealt with, depending on how quickly you deal with it.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, so did I.
If we deal with this problem in several days, how about you give us another 5 once we have dealt with the situation?
He's saying like 5 now, and then maybe like 50 or 100 later. I think that's what he's saying. 5 just for expenses now.
If you can deal with this matter within the space of 3 days, then I will give you an additional 5 gold pieces. How does that sound to you?
That seems to be an acceptable offer. I shoot a look at Watum, the 50 or 100 or whatever he said.
Well, I'm confused. Is he literally offering us 10 gold as the entire pay for this job? Is that his offer?
That certainly seems what he's offering.
Okay, because that's like, 2 days pay for 1 guard, and you're hiring 4 people to get that job done for 10 gold. That's a terrible offer. So I will say it seems like a mere pittance considering the potential dangers involved. It is not even sufficient pay for 4 people. You give us advance us 5 crowns now, and when this task is complete and your town is no longer troubled and your merchants are happy and your walls are clean, then you will give us an additional 50 gold.
He laughs when you say that and says 50 gold for dealing with a child.
No, for dealing with
as far as I'm aware, you're going to deal with the possessed child, the child that is already in my cells and shows no propensity to escape from those cells. Is that correct?
My lord, that is not what I said. That is not what I said, my lord. I said that we would get to the bottom of the entire thing, and as I said, there are more children who are possessed by this. This would mean possibly leaving the area, going out to possibly find the perpetrator, not simply going and interrogating a child in a cell.
Do you really think this problem has come to an end, that you have caught the sole reason behind this, and that your problems are solved? If so, you are correct. You do not need to hire anyone. But if, as I believe you suspect, there is something more behind this, and this child is but merely a pawn in the greater picture, then my offer is a fair one.
Okay, at this point, Watum, can you please make me a persuasion check?
No, unlikely.
Yeah, Avastar is torn at the minute because obviously he wants to keep the negotiation smooth.
I rolled a natural 16, which gives me a 16.
Oh, lovely.
Okay. Telamon exhales. Yes, I do see your point, my friend. I tell you what, if you can resolve this matter in the space of 2 days, then I will give you the advances I've originally said of 5 gold pieces for expenses. I accept that a person can't live on the mere air that we breathe, etc. I will advance you the 5 gold pieces for your expenses, and if you can deal with it within 2 days, then I will speak to the chief financier, and I will attempt to acquire the 50 gold pieces that you ask for. I cannot promise that it will be the full 50 gold pieces, since I am not in charge of the town purse strings. However, I will make a strong case to Lord Lascaris that you have indeed been worth the 50 gold pieces.
That is most generous, my lord. We will not let you down.
No, I should expect not for 50 gold pieces.
2 days, assuming we do not have to leave town in pursuit of this.
I assume
course,
that look at Watum and sort of say, "Shut up! This is a good
I
thing."
No, it's still a bad deal.
I appreciate the fact that it's getting a bit late and it will soon be curfew. So let us say that we will start the 2 days from dawn tomorrow. How does that sound for you all?
All right, I'll nod.
I suggest you all hurry and make your way back to your abodes. Anyway, it's starting to get dark out. It doesn't do to be out on the streets at night. Certainly not too late at night.
Now, we had secured rooms in this inn already, if I recall.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we're going to head back there.
Thank you very much for your time, my lord. I know that you have a very full schedule.
Not a problem, my lord Avastar. It does occur to me as well that in 5 days' time, a few of the local lords are holding a small gathering. Nothing too extravagant. A few dozen of the nobles who reside in and around Battle Bridge. It's rare we get someone from a house as well pedigreed as your own wander through Battle Bridge. Perhaps you would care to join us there.
Oh, I certainly would. That's very kind of you.
Splendid. The affair is being held at the Lascaris estate on the outskirts of Battle Bridge. If you do not know it, I can provide you with a map, or I'm sure if you ask anyone.
Thank you. An invitation would be most sufficient. I'm sure I can find my way.
He hold on a second, he says, and he walks to a door in the side of his office, disappears into a small room, you assume like his quarters or something similar. He comes walking back in with a small envelope that has a green wax seal on it, and then says, yes, there you go.
Thank you very much. I look forward to attending this gathering and hopefully to meet more of my peers there.
He sort of looks you up and down and then says, of course you will be expected to be attired properly, and any of your servants that you bring with you would of course have to respect a certain level of social decorum whilst on the Lascari premises.
Yes, I think that I look again at Audius with the little smoke. I think I will allow my servants to take the day off. I'm sure I will be fine by myself.
Splendid, splendid. Then I look forward to your company at this. Like I say, it's nothing elaborate, just a small soiree. Occasionally, those from the more pedigreed families like to get together. We also discuss the charitable donations that we'll be making to those less fortunate than ourselves. Discuss matters of arrangements between the families, etc.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to that gathering, but in the meantime, we will grant you the request of this eradication.
But one more thing before you go, and he reaches down to a small leather pouch on his belt, takes out 5 gold coins, puts them on the table, and says, there you are, for your expenses.
Thank you very much. I take them from the table and start handing several out to Watum and Audius.
How much? That's one.
Yeah, I'll take one. I'll just take 1 gold coin.
Okay, in that case, yeah, I'll give 1 to each of you, and then I'll give 1 to Drax, obviously, when we see him.
As you start handing them out, Talamon says, what are you doing?
I am handing out my fair share of what you've given us.
No, that's for your expenses. I'm going to go and get the money for your servants' expenses from the financier. I don't carry a lot of cash on me.
Oh, I see. How silly of me. Well, in that case, thank you very much.
Not a problem. I can see that you've obviously been roughing it in recent years. I mean, no offence, Lord Avastar. I'm sure coming into a civilized settlement like Battlebridge must be a little bit of a change of pace from life on the road and such. But if you'll do me the courtesy of waiting for me on the ground floor, I'll go and get the rest of the money, and I'll have one of my people bring it down to you.
Of course.
Is there anything else before you leave?
Not for me, no. I'm perfectly satisfied with our meeting. I do not wish to hold you up any further.
Well then, good day to you all, and without waiting to see whether you stay or not, he goes back to his writing.
Okay, in that case, I sort of half usher the rest of them out as though to say, get out, get out, get out, get out.
Yep.
I leave, and after we shut the door, I grab Avastar by the scruff of his collar. If you ever pretend that I am your servant, they will not be able to pay anyone any amount of money to find your body.
Yeah, okay, I understand that, but if in all due respect, he was the one who
I'm already halfway down the
assumed.
stairs.
Yeah,
He
he's
already
pretty much grabbed you and everything and walked off.
He already assumed.
awesome.
And I sort of trail off with that and sort of rub my chest a bit.
Okay, I'm going to jump now to Drax, who's obviously been stood downstairs while all this high finance negotiation has been going on upstairs. Drax, you've been left alone by your companions with only this possessed child locked in a cell for company. As you're sat there, you hear again in the sibilant, whispering tones of Draconic the child's voice go, Drax, Drax, Drax.
Drax smiles at the child. Whoever you are, you cannot still fear in one such as I. Those days have passed.
He smiles at you and continuing in Draconic says, and why would I be trying to instill fear in you? Do you think I gain some grotesque satisfaction from seeing fear in other people?
I do not know your aims, but I know your means. Using a child as some kind of voice piece is diabolical. You should let the poor kid go.
Oh, I
done nothing.
assure you that when I depart, this child will be quite unharmed, unless others should choose to visit injury upon him, as has been the case previously. Why don't you ask your orc friend about the simple farmer he beheaded, thinking that he was killing me? An innocent man who I had momentarily made use of. Did he investigate? Did he attempt to see if he could free the poor man? Or did he simply see a man with a sword walking towards him and choose to take the route less travelled and behead that poor farmer? Did you know that that farmer had a wife and 2 children?
Did
I
he?
knew that. Did he stop to ask? Well, let me
A man
answer
has a
the
right to
question
defend
for you.
himself.
No. Of course a man has a right to defend himself, but as you have done here, I was far more aggressive here, and yet you chose to confine me rather than simply dispatch me in a brutal fashion. Surely you're not saying it's beyond the wit of your burly companion to have incapacitated a combatant without straight away going for the decapitation option?
Drax looks up as if he's trying to see Odious through the stones, which of course he cannot do. He's not that magical. And he turns back to the creature in this boy's body. He doesn't strike me as a man who just cuts down innocent people. I
Oh,
saw him
but
help
you don't-
a wounded stranger on the road less than a day ago.
Oh yes, I'm sure he's very charitable, but then you don't know him like I do.
I presume you must be Cortis, then.
If that's what you wish to call me. It's as good a name as any.
I suppose.
Tell me, Drax, just as we're sitting here having a nice civilized conversation, it's so nice to speak to civilized people. Tell me, Drax, what brings you to this den of iniquity, where the rich lord it over the poor, where injustice goes without redress? What brings you here, a mighty person born of dragons like yourself? This mewling city where dogs run riot in the streets.
Even a dragon must find his family.
Oh.
But I'm sure you already knew that.
Well, yes, I did, but it doesn't do to be impolite with these things. And tell me, have you... Well, I know you've not been successful in finding your family, otherwise you wouldn't still be looking for them. And that's all you want, to find your family? It seems a piffling small thing. I'm sure someone of your ability, someone who hears the call of the gods themselves, would be able to find their family very quickly.
I do. And when Drax says this, there is a slight rumble of thunder emanating out. I do have a keen interest in stopping those who seek to enslave others.
It's ironic, isn't it? You come from a race that was created to be slaves, and yet here you are attempting to free other people from that same predicament. It never ceases to astound me the way the world works.
Yes, quite.
Of course, if you're well, let's just say I'm a merchant of sorts. If I were to give you some direction to where you might find some of your family, what would that be worth to you? Drax of the Copper Dragon bloodline.
Obviously, that would hold quite some value.
That's not what I asked. What would it be worth to you?
I'll have no interest in money.
Well, that's good, because I don't have any.
But obviously you have some sort of bargain you'd like to make.
I'm simply making light conversation. I assume your friends will eventually come down when their mediations are dealt with, and eventually I will grow tired of this and I will leave this body and go elsewhere once I get tired of these 4 stone walls. I'm simply passing the time. It's a simple enough question, but what would it be worth to you?
Why would I be interested in making deals with a creature that likes to use children as rope mechanical constructs that, slaves,
You assume, Drax, that I have a choice in this matter.
We always have a choice. That's what makes it important.
What a naive viewpoint you have. As he's saying that, that's when the rest of you guys come downstairs, and Avastar, as you're sort of walking downstairs, you hear this child in Draconic say, "What a naive viewpoint you have."
Drax, why are you talking to him?
We're having a civilized conversation.
So...
Speaks the tongue of lies, Drax. Wouldn't believe anything it says.
I'm
It
not
sounds like
overly
he's trying to... It sounds like he's trying to tempt you.
He certainly seems interested in you, Odious.
Of course it does. Say anything at once.
In common this time it says, "Of course I'm interested. I always collect on my debts."
Let us be away to our beds. And I turn to it and I say, "Enjoy yours."
I won't be staying here for very long. His voice floats after you. I would advise you run along. I'd advise you to actually tarry a while. I've heard that the midnight display on the main streets of Battlebridge is quite spectacular.
Well, I'm already heading back to the inn.
That's fine, not a problem. And I'm going to call a short 5-minute break there, guys, while you head back to the inn so people can go get a drink, to the toilet, etc.
Sure.
And we will rejoin this in 5 minutes.
Essentially.
Awesome.
Okay, Rob, since we're waiting for the other guys to get back during this sort of intermission, do you have any thoughts about how the game is progressing so far?
I like the pace a little better. In particular, I like the focus better. We can sink our teeth into, one mystery, and follow that. Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the mystery. Sometimes
Excellent.
GMs talk about giving players tons and tons of agency, but there are really, you can take that too far, because there's joy to be had in not knowing things about the world and just uncovering a mystery.
Mm-hmm. How about yourself, Jenny? How do you feel about how the session's going so far while we're in
Well,
intermission?
I definitely agree with Rob in that sometimes as DMs you can give too much plot, because it's like, oh, I've written all this stuff, or I've done loads of world building, I want to just say everything, but actually it becomes too much. And if someone has never actually planned it out like you have, it will feel like a load and load of stuff, and it will actually get quite confusing. So yeah, I'm liking this sort of, while it feels quite slow, we've already got a lot of information already, so actually it's not. The pacing is fine, I'm fine with that. I'm wondering what will happen in the rest of the session, to be honest. I really have no idea how much we're going to uncover. Although I am looking forward to this soiree, and obviously, as Rob was saying in the chat, there's obviously going to be some kind of potential subplot in that. So yeah, it's good. I'm liking it.
Indeed.
Quick question:
And
do the rest of us get our 5 gold? By the way.
Yeah, you will have got your 5 gold.
All right.
I didn't actually realize it was 5 gold each.
Yeah, that wasn't
5
clear to
between
me
us.
either. That wasn't clear to me either.
That's fine. I didn't want to interrupt you guys while you're in your flow by breaking it up and saying, oh, a guy comes down and he's like, oh, here's your 5 gold, sir, here's your 5 gold, sir. But yes, you will have all got your 5 gold.
Well, this guard we spoke to gave the impression that 5 gold a day was his pay, because he said if he got 10 gold, that would be great. He'd be happy then. So I'm thinking, if he gets 5 gold a day, and this guy's offering us 10 gold to do this job, the 4 of us, that's a horrible pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should be getting at least double what a guard gets each. Right? We're specialists. We can do more than what a guard can do. I mean, that was at least the way I saw it.
Meanwhile,
That's
Avastar is...
certainly...
Sorry, go ahead. Okay, I was just going to say, well, Avastar, because he's more used to sort of these negotiation things, knows that since technically this guy is above us all in hierarchy, he's going to play more to what he's proposing in order to gain the respect, and then, you start sort of asking for more in, like, future endeavours.
Perhaps we need to prove our specialities before we get the juicy.
By the sounds of it, they're all pretty ignorant of what us magic casters
I mean,
Well,
I like to play instruments.
I like it when different party members have different points of view, like different characters have different points of view on things, right? It makes it more real.
Oh, yeah. For me personally, I definitely say, no, I want more money, please, but...
Okay, just to
Since I was
clarify
starting
for you guys who've just come back, you can all add 5 gold pieces to your character sheet for the advance that you've been given. And if everyone's ready, we will pick up the scene with you all entering the Common Sword Inn.
Yeah.
Okay, no problems. As you enter the Common Sword Inn, it's getting quite dark by the time you get back there. As you get nearer the Common Sword, you can hear a strong-voiced female voice singing inside of the inn. And as you open the door and walk in, you notice for a second everyone who's sat around, which is a good deal more people now because it's the evening, sort of turns round, and there's quite a look of fear on quite a few people's faces as they look at the door. Then when they see you, they're sort of like, and they just go back to their drinks.
I look at my robe as if I've got something dirty on it. As if they were horrified at the fact that my robes were dirty or something.
You don't appear to have. You can see the flirtatious young woman that you encountered previously is stood at the far end of the bar, in fact leaning on the bar, and she's singing a local ditty. She has quite a good voice. You notice quite a few people are sort of like leaning on their pints and wistfully gazing at her as she sings.
She has quite a nice voice.
I'm going to rub the top of my head and ponder who these people seem to be afraid might be coming in, because they all seem worried and then relaxed when they saw it was us. So who exactly were they being fearful of? I'm just going to wonder that.
I'm going to look through the crowd of people who have come and see if there's anyone unique or interesting looking.
Okay, not a problem. Make me a perception roll, Audius.
Alrighty. That is a 17.
Okay, as you look around, you can see that sat over most of the people are just sort of like general peasants or the odd tradesmen dotted here and there. There even looks like there's the odd sort of noble dotted about here and there, dressed in their finery. Over it, a couple of people strike your eye though. Over in one corner, sat on a small round table that they appear to have entirely to themselves, is a young halfling man wearing like a travelling robe. He's got a small dagger sat on the table in front of him, and he's drinking out of a half-pint flagon of mead. There is also a very muscular and brawny looking woman stood next to me. The thing that catches your attention about her is she has two horns emerging from her forehead and curling back following the contours of her head.
So she's a minotaur. Is she?
No, she looks more like a tiefling.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so, I suspect that they might be involved with the shady side of things, so I'm going to move through the crowd and I'm going to try to signal one of them in thieves' cant, asking if I can join them from the other side of the room. No, very exciting.
Not a problem. How do you intend to attract their attention so they notice the sign language?
I don't. I plan to. Basically, I'm gonna stand around and I'm gonna do the gesture every few seconds, and over time they'll probably notice, because one, they're trained to look for it, even if they're not actively looking for it. So, and the whole idea is that you don't call attention to yourself.
Okay, not a problem. It takes you about 15 minutes of moving around and subtly making these hand gestures. After about 15 minutes, you notice the burly tiefling woman nudges the halfling next to her with her elbow and inclines her head ever so slightly in your direction, at which point the halfling leans forward, placing his hands on the table and shielding one hand with the other. He makes the sign that you are welcome to join them.
Alright, I'll go join them.
Okay, as you walk into the common, saw this woman's singing away. Pretty much Audius is just like off into the crowd and sort of disappears into the crowd. What are the rest of you doing?
I'm just going to say I'm briefly distracted by this singing woman, and then I start looking around for Audius. Like, we're sort of friends when we came here. So
okay, as you're distracted by this fairly gorgeous-looking woman, you notice that she's actually moving around the room slowly as she's singing. She occasionally has a nip of someone's drink, smiles at someone, hugs someone, and as she slowly makes her way round to where you're standing, continuing singing all the time, she smiles at you and she runs a single finger along your very bald head.
I'm going to take a step back, uncertain of this cultural gesture.
She pauses momentarily to laugh in a musical, lilting voice, and then she blows you a kiss and moves on and continues with her musical number. A couple of people are like, "Yay!" as she does this.
Right. So I confused it. Seek out Ordius.
I'm going to head to the bar and get some kind of drink.
Okay, not a problem. You head to the bar and you can see that the young half-elf you encountered previously is stood behind the bar. He looks at you and says, "Oh, good to see you again, sir. What can I get for you?"
I would like to partake in some non-alcoholic wine, if that is at all possible.
He pauses, he doesn't say anything for a few moments and stares at you. And he says, "Non-alcoholic wine? Do you mean grape juice, sir?"
Well, yes, I suppose it can be called grape juice, but simply you make the wine and then you extract the alcoholic effects out of it. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but we have that all the time where I live.
He takes sort of half a step backwards as though he's horrified by the mere prospect of making good wine and then removing the precious, precious alcohol from it. And then he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I don't think we have any of that. There's not really any call for it. I could get you some normal wine and water it down if that'd be any good."
Maybe I will have the grape juice for now, please.
"Oh, no, we haven't got any grape juice. I was just asking if that's what you meant."
Well, then why on earth did you ask? Fine, I will take a very, very watered-down glass of wine. Probably a ratio of, shall we say, 1 to 7.
"Right, you are, sir." And he takes this dusty bottle of wine, blows the dust off it, and then pours the tiniest measure of it into a glass and tops it with water and goes, "There you go." So he's like, don't worry about the cost. I can't charge you for that. It's pretty much just water."
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope I will enjoy it nonetheless.
"Well, I hope so, sir."
I go back over to, well, I was going to go back over to where Tomb was, but then I realised he's disappeared, so I'm going to stand at a sort of a vantage point and at least watch this this singer.
Okay, whilst that is going on, what's Drax up to?
Drax is he's at the bar. He's got a cup of some cheap kind of ale locally. He doesn't have much taste for fine beverages, and he's sort of in his cups. He's sort of mumbling to himself.
You notice that when you've actually asked for after the whole performance with Avastar and the watered wine, the half-elf behind the bar actually looks quite relieved when you're just like, "Give me a beer." He's like, "Oh, thank goodness for that. I was scared what you were going to order then, sir." And he's like, "Oh yeah." Turns around to a barrel behind him, turns a tap on it, and a foaming mug of ale is quickly chonked down the bar in front of you.
Drax is sort of thinking to himself at the moment. He's frustrated. This creature, whoever he was in that kid's body, was trying to provoke him. It knew the exact words to use. The right way to get at him. He's angry at himself for almost giving in and going on the offensive. Thankfully, he's learned.
Okay. So you're stood there sort of silently remonstrating with yourself for what you've done. Now, Ordius, you've moved over to the table where this halfling and this tiefling are sitting. The halfling sat there. He has big buck teeth sticking out of the front of his mouth. Like I said, there's a dagger on the table in front of him. He's wearing a travelling cloak with a black feather coming out of the cap of it, although his hood is pulled down at the minute. He has slightly wispy, straggled hair. Looks like he might be going prematurely bald.
I sit in front of them, but as I do, I'm going to take a glance at them, and I want to use investigation to try to figure out as much as I can about them, hoping to, in the forthcoming conversation, impress them with this knowledge.
Okay, make your investigation roll.
It'd probably
18.
be insight, right? I mean, unless
No,
you're like
that's body language, right? That's specifically body language.
so you're like investigating their clothing and their.
Yeah, and like
Okay, what did you roll? Sorry, Audius.
18. Wait, let me look. Yeah, 18.
Not a problem. Looking at this halfling, you can, although it's very subtly concealed under his cloak, you can actually tell that he has a number of other weapons of similar size to this dagger that's on the table, secreted about his person.
I sit down and I say, you know, I once knew another halfling that collected daggers like that. But no, not for any practical reason, mind you. And he just loved them for some reason. So he
Well,
went mad. But
well, let's just say mine are for a practical purpose and leave it at that, shall we?
Smile. And it's nice to see some people that move around the same circles as I do.
And what circles do you move in, stranger?
The kind that people don't like to talk about at. Yeah. I look over at like a bunch of nobles who are like watching this events like that.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't frequent establishments like this particularly often, but while it was getting a bit late and we ducked in here, grabbed a room for the night. Not healthy to be out too late.
Ah, yes. So, did you...
Not that I'm sure Charissa here couldn't have dealt with any dangers, at which point this burly female tiefling just like nods. I'm sure she can deal with most things, but, you know, no point risking it.
No. I look at her and I nod at her and say the tiefling, the infernal version of the word milady, which, now that I think about it, might be an insult.
She just grins and cracks her knuckles.
You in Battlebridge on business or passing through to the Three Brothers? Or moving away?
No, I suppose this is what you might like to call my my base of operations. I do a lot of business around here. If you know what
I'm new in town. I'm new in town, but I know which way's up. Got any work you could possibly throw my way?
He leans over to you and his voice lowering into a whisper and he goes, "Tell me, what's your name, stranger?"
Audius Morlin.
All right. And tell me, Audius Morlin, you ever killed a man?
I nod.
Well, and he looks around and he says, "Well, we might have some work that we could put your way, but I'll need a demonstration of your abilities first. We don't just accept any old person off the street."
I wouldn't trust you if you did.
Well, that's good then. We all know where we stand. So if I were to say, to mention someone who had been an inconvenience to me, and I were to ask you to deal with that person, you'd be able to do that? Obviously, I wouldn't be paying you for this service. This is what you might like to see as a test of your abilities.
Well, the blighter really deserved it.
Does it matter if they deserve it? Surely what matters is you proving your abilities and getting future work. Assuming you really want some work, that is. And you're not just wasting my fucking time.
Of course not.
Well then.
I can deal with any name that happened to be mentioned in the course of this conversation.
Excellent. That's good to know. Well, I'll tell you what then. I'm going to do a little bit of background checking on yourself. You say you're a stranger to this town. I'm going to ask about it. I like to know who I'm doing business with. I'm going to do a bit of background checking on you. What say I meet you in here tomorrow evening, and if I should happen to pass by you and drop a piece of paper, and that piece of paper had a name written on it, and you were to shuffle that person off, so to speak, then we might talk in more detail about future work for you. How's that sound to you?
That sounds wonderful.
Good, I was hoping you'd say something like that. Well then, what say you run along and do whatever it is you do, and I'm sure a piece of paper will happen to fall in front of you tomorrow evening. It might not be myself who brings it in, but I'll make sure it gets here.
I don't smile. Yes, I hope that particular set of circumstances do occur. Now, I do see a friend of mine over there.
Well, good evening to you then, Audius Moley.
And I give them both a nod and leave. Return, you look lost.
I thought that of you. You seem adept at disappearing.
One of my many talents.
Yes, well, it has been an interesting day, but I wish to study my Shanti.
What's that? Oh, is that thing you do?
Yes, yes. I must read from it. It comforts me. It restores me.
Okay, whilst this conversation is going, what's Avastar up to?
I would have been watching this singer for a while, and then maybe thinking about retiring. I'm keeping an eye on a clock if there is one.
There is a clock on the far wall. You can see that the time is slowly ticking round towards midnight. You notice as it gets nearer to midnight, a lot of other people in the room are sort of glancing up at the clock quite frequently. Then as it starts getting towards midnight, you notice that like an awful lot of the people start drifting out of the room towards like the rooms upstairs.
Okay, I ask the barman why they're all going off. Is there some kind of celebration going on?
He looks at you sort of curiously for a bit and then says, "No, it's not a celebration, sir. You telling me you don't know about the midnight patrol, sir?"
I have never visited this area before, so why on earth should I know?
Oh well, it's lucky you happen to be indoors then, sir. You must be aware of that a great battle took place here, like back in the old days. I mean, 100 years ago or more.
I have travelled many miles, so I'm not familiar with that story.
He leans closer, his slightly stuttering voice taking on a great deal more strength as he obviously delights in the experience of getting to tell this story to someone who's not heard it before. And he says, well, they say that there was a huge massacre in the place where this town grew up. And well, they say that at midnight, all the ghosts and the spirits of those people rise from the ground in the mists, and they march through the street looking for people to add to their ranks to replace the people who fell in battle. Oof, gives me chills just thinking about it.
Rising from the ground? That's preposterous. It takes someone to control such a thing. Ghosts don't just rise from their own accord.
You say that, sir. I had a cousin who knew someone who disappeared at midnight. Never saw him again. Just like that. Gone.
Could have easily been coincidence.
One past curfew. All I'm saying, sir, is if there isn't any midnight patrol and it's all made up, why the hell is there a curfew that says everyone's got to be indoors before midnight?
I suppose because it gives the people more power.
Well, I'm not complaining. I mean, it means we do a fair bit of business. I mean, anyone who knows the town tries to get in done before midnight. A lot of these people will be people who were just caught out on the streets, couldn't get back to their own homes in time, so they book a place in one of the common rooms upstairs. We don't charge them much. We understand how it goes in Battlebridge.
Well then, perhaps if I head upstairs and see a few ghosts, I will let you know.
Oh, you won't see any here. There's a lot of people who are superstitious about them coming into buildings, but I've never heard of anyone being like attacked by any of these spirits inside a building. But you could not pay me enough, sir, to walk out on the cobbles of Battlebridge at midnight, sir. Not for all the money in the world.
Would I be able to see the bridge from, say, my room or somewhere upstairs?
Are you asking him, or are you...
No, I'm asking you,
me?
sorry. Yeah.
Okay, not a problem. You would be able to see the bridge from your window, yeah?
Okay. In that case, yeah, I'll go up to my room and see if anything in particular happens, but I'm still very skeptical of these ghosts rising up of their own accord. I mean, how silly.
Okay, not a problem. As you head up to your room, you do notice something strange as you're heading up there, that all the wooden shutters over all the windows appear to have been pulled shut.
Wow, they are quite suspicious indeed, I say to myself, and I'm going to try and open these shutters.
Okay, not a problem. You attempt to open these shutters and you find they're actually locked.
Really? Okay. I see if there's a key lying around. Quite often there's a small key left by a window if you need to get out quickly for any reason.
You do indeed find a small metal key placed on one of the desks inside your room.
In that case, I'd try the key and then open the shutters.
Yep. There's a satisfying thunk as you turn it in the lock and you open the shutters. Looking out, you can see there is indeed a low-lying mist that seems to be hanging over the towns, just a little bit above ground level. Not at all uncommon in places where there's waterways running through it and the weather gets colder in the evenings.
Okay. I keep watching for a bit longer.
Okay, not a problem. I'm going to jump back momentarily to the guys downstairs. Audius, Watum, what do you talk to?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to seek out the bar owner just to get some tea, maybe a pot of tea, as a non-alcoholic alternative. And then I'm going to take that up to my room and study my spellbook before bed.
Okay, not a problem. You have a look around the main bar. You can't see Brius anywhere seated in the main bar area. You do remember previously him saying something about having quarters on the first floor.
Okay, so once I've got my pot of tea, I'm going to take that back to my room. I'm going to go in. I'm going to sit on the floor, cross-legged, open the Ashanti, my spellbook in front of me, and study as my nightly ritual.
Okay, not a problem. You start studying it.
At this point, how many people are in the bar? There's some people who are like drinking late into the night.
You notice that, oddly enough, you would expect that a lot of people drinking into the night. The bar is, however, rapidly emptying as people are heading off to their rooms. There's no more than half a dozen people in the room at the minute.
Okay, so I'm going to spend like... okay, I'm going to spend maybe an hour and a half I'm going to just be talking with the people who seem to probably be drinking late tonight and then go into their rooms, or they're spending the whole night in the tavern rather than going outside. I'm going to spend time talking with them, seeing if I can get like a layout of how things currently are in Battlebridge, any interesting rumors, stuff like that. Make sure I come across as an approachable person, maybe buy some people some drinks.
Okay, not a problem. Can you make me a roll of your charisma?
10.
Okay, not a problem. Like I said, there's about 6 people left in the room, including the halfling and the tiefling. You chat with people. There seem to be mostly a collection of tradesmen and various stall owners and just general citizens of the town. You manage to get the impression that Battlebridge is really a town that thrives on trade. It originally grew up because people from the 3 nearby villages all sort of met here because it was equidistant from them all. Eventually, people started setting up taverns, etc., to provide for the people who were trading here, and that led to a small town building up around it. There seems to be a very noticeable divide between the people who are traders and have money, although they don't have the level of money that nobles have, and just the general citizenry, who are mostly employed by the traders in the town. There's quite a big monetary divide between them.
The 3 classes.
Indeed, yeah. It seems as though the merchant class is pretty much rising to prominence in Battlebridge. There's a few, no more than a dozen nobles hereabouts, but it seems to be mainly, from what you can gather, how true it is you don't know, but it seems to be mainly the tradesmen who hold the real power in Battlebridge.
So are the nobles kind of like land rich, but their actual wealth is decaying?
Indeed, yes.
Okay.
You notice that most of the savvy sort of nobles appear to act as sort of patrons to successful businesses. They rent out properties to them in return for a small cut of their profits, etc.
Okay.
Effectively investing their money.
So, what would I be able to find information on the noble houses in Battlebridge? Like, are there too many to mention, or?
Okay, you find out.
Actually, I'll rephrase what I was trying to find out. The event that's happening in 6 days. Who are the most prominent nobles attending?
Okay, you find out that the main noble houses, there are a few sort of minor houses, but the main noble houses in Battlebridge are House Bothran, who the Lord Garth Bothran is like in charge of the town overall, and then there is House Lascaris, who appear to be one of the more successful noble houses. As soon as they saw which way the wind was blowing, they invested heavily their monies in several burgeoning and later very successful businesses. So they're pretty much the richest nobles in town. And you even hear whispers that they've made several investments to the Bothran family and local dignitaries to ensure that they get some manner of preferential treatment. And it's they that are hosting this event in 6 days. There'll be mostly Lascaris there. There'll be a few House Bothran there and a few of the sort of minor noble houses. You do, however, hear a rumour that the High Lord Bothran is supposed to be attending, although apparently he actually lives in the Black Stone Fortress to the north. He doesn't actually live in Battlebridge. And he's the overall person who rules the Valley of Three Brothers.
Okay. High Lord Bothran might be attending.
Okay, whilst you're noting that down, I'm going to jump over to Drax. Drax, you've been stood at the bar sort of staring deep into your cups. What are you doing?
After some time, Drax, you start talking to the barman, getting an idea of, has other incidents of children acting strangely been going on? Is there something bigger?
The half-elf Finnan looks at you and says, well, as I said to your friends last time you were in here, yeah, there's been all manner of this graffiti scrawled in chalk on businesses. Mostly the town guard come along, they make them wash it off. No more's really said. After all, it's not really permanent damage, it's just chalk after all. I mean, a good rain had washed it off, so it's not been really seen as anything serious. As to children behaving strangely, not that I've noticed, to be honest. But then again, I don't have a great dealing with the children. I'm not getting any myself.
I suppose you don't get many of them running in here.
well, no, sir. Aside from our stable boy, we don't really have any youngsters in here.
I notice a lot of people have left quite early for a tavern. In the cities and towns I've been in, usually they're bustling at this time.
He points at the he points at the clock and says, "You see, now it's about sort of 25 minutes to midnight. And he says, well, as I was telling your elf friend, most people who know about the midnight patrol try and make sure they're well tucked up in their beds before midnight.
The midnight patrol.
He says, oh, have you not heard the story? He says,
No, I have not.
Wow. He says, well, I'm sure you must be aware that there was a great battle took place here about 100 or so years ago, and he relates the same story that he related to Avastar. Again, seemingly excited. Oh, someone's not heard my story before. He regaled you with the whole tale of this ghostly infantry rising from the ground in the mists and walking the streets looking for people they can draft into their ghostly regiment.
Are these ghosts seen on the Dragon Bridge, by any chance?
He says, well, the way I hear it, sir, is they walk down the main road, then they all file across the old bridge, and they continue down the road out of the town.
Do they come past this way, supposedly? Past the tavern?
Oh, yeah. He sort of points out and he says, well, yeah, we're just on the main thoroughfare. I mean, the old bridge is just a couple of miles in that direction. So, yeah, they have to walk down this street. They pretty much come right past the building. Of course, we make sure all the shutters are locked and everything. You know, best be on the safe side.
Of course. So if one was to go and watch this parade, would they be able to get back into the town?
I'm afraid so. Once it hits midnight, we lock all the doors and we don't let anyone in. Yeah. Whatever we hear outside the building, we just ignore it.
Surely it's just
not right.
Superstition.
Pressing into those businesses. Wow, you say that. My cousin's friend Merle was out on the streets at midnight and disappeared just like that. Never saw her again.
So if I wanted to see this spectacle, I would have to stay there the entire night.
Yeah, if you step outside and it gets to midnight, you'll find that no one will open their doors after midnight. So not until it gets round to 1 in the morning. So we normally think it's pretty safe by then. So
perhaps another time then. Okay, thank you.
Oh, no problem, sir. He says, excuse me for a second, and he shouts out. He's like, Seven, where are you, boy? At which point the slightly idiotic-looking young boy comes out the back, and he's like, what can I do for you, Mr. Finnan? He's like, look, you're supposed to be going around. Make sure that all the shutters are pulled and everywhere's locked up. Will you? Go on, make something useful of yourself. Oh, yes, right away. I'll go and do it now for you. And he heads off towards the stairs, sort of checking all of the shutters as he does, sort of pulling on them, making sure they're locked.
Is Audia still in the common room?
It should be.
It should be.
He is indeed. It's quite easy to see, because like I say, the bar's almost empty.
He is probably the only half-orc in the building. I'll go sit down next to him.
The other barkeep.
If he's not engaged in conversation, I will ask him. I'll engage him in conversation. That creature, the one you believe to be Cortez, he said some very interesting things about you. I thought you should know. He accused you of cutting down an innocent man, which I believe is referring to the incident you told me about.
It's a lie. It's a creature of lies. You shouldn't believe a word it says.
I was skeptical of something that uses a child as its way of communication.
What else did it say?
As you're looking over Drax's shoulder and he's talking to you, you notice that the halfling is still sat there with his tiefling companion. As Drax said, I heard you killed an innocent man. You see him make the thieves' cant hand sign for, now we're talking.
I thought you were going to say he points to Drax and say,
he's the one.
Kill him. My mortal enemy. Okay. I feel unnerved by his reaction, but I can't show it, so I try X stone face when I see him there. So I gotta have this weird thing where I don't want Drax to think I'm a murderer. I definitely didn't do it, but I want this guy to think I'm a murderer. Alright. What else did he tell you? What else did it speak?
It didn't go into a great detail, but implied that you have some unfinished business.
That's a lie. But what else did it say to you?
It mentioned that you owed it something. Didn't go into details as into what.
So all it tried to do was spread lies about me. Very interesting.
It tried to offer me information, but I was not interested.
What kind of information?
I believe it was trying to entice me with information or whereabouts of people of my clan or other Dragonborns in general. It knew that would get my attention, but I don't make deals with those kind of creatures. Whatever it is.
Maybe you do know which way's up.
Okay,
This deal was
I'm going to.
most unwise.
At this point, I'm going to jump back to Avastar.
Mm-hmm.
You've retired to your luxury quarters, and you've opened up the shutters. As you're stood there peering out at this slowly low-lying mist, you hear a at the door.
Who is it?
You hear a voice say, I don't mean to disturb you, sir. I've just been sent to check that all of the shutters are locked and everything.
Avastar sort of closes his eyes as though to say, oh, not him again. Yes, my shutters are indeed closed. It is quite cold tonight.
Oh, I don't mean to cause any problems, sir, but I have to go round and check them all. Finnan will play Merry Hell with me if I don't come in and check them all.
You can take my word for it. I'm
right
very
you are then, sir. All right, you are then, sir. I'll leave you to it. And you hear the sound of footfalls moving away from your door. Shortly afterwards, Watum sat in his room, studying his tome. You're disturbed by a slight at your door, Watum.
Hello.
You hear a voice outside saying, I don't mean to disturb you, sir, but I've been sent round to check that all the shutters in all the rooms are locked.
Very well.
Thank you very much, sir. And he, as you open the door, he walks in, goes up to the shutters, gives them a quick pull to check they're locked. And he says, oh, that all seems all right then, sir. I'll leave you to it. Hope you have a good evening's sleep, sir.
I just nodded him.
And he turns around and walks out the door, shuts it behind him. You hear the footfalls padding away across the landing.
Yeah.
Both Avastar and Watum hear him sort of knocking on the common room doors, going in, checking the shutters, and then making his way back towards the main bar area. We then jump back to Drax and Audius still in the main bar.
Well, it's getting late. I'm going to retire for the night.
As you're saying this, you see the young boy Simon come down the stairs, and Finnan's, the half-elf stood behind the bar, says, Simon, did you check all of the shutters, make sure they were locked and everything? He's like, oh, yeah, of course I did. I look at everything, make sure they were all right. Seems okay. He's like, oh, well, good. You can go and oh, it's a bit late now. I tell you what, don't bother going out to the stables tonight. You can sleep in my room. It's fine. Oh, thank you very much. It is a bit warmer in here. That's fine. You just go and get yourself some sleep. So, oh, right you are then. And he heads through a door into one of the ground floor quarters. There's only yourselves, the halfling, the tiefling, and the half-elf still in the bar. You can see the half-elf sort of checking the stock and everything's all right.
Alright, before I retire, I go up to the half-elf. Do you need any help closing up for the night?
Well, that's very kind of you, sir. I think we're all right. I've just sent the boy round to check on all the shutters. As long as they're all locked and they're all closed up, we should be absolutely fine. I've just got one last thing. He takes some keys out from under the bar. I was going to go and lock the main door, and then we're all shut up for the night. I'll probably be getting to bed myself. And as he's saying this, he walks over to the main door and locks it with his keys.
I see him locked, and I think...
Is there anything I can get you gentlemen before I turn in for the night?
No thanks. I just wanted to make sure you lock that door, thus keeping everyone in this building safe from
Don't you worry,
the
sir.
outside threats. And
Don't you
I
worry,
walk
sir. I
up
will
the
make sure
stairs.
the door is well locked.
I walk up to my stairs, thinking that this is lucky that we found lodgings in this place.
Okay, and you head to bed. Drax, you're left in the bar with there's only like a halfling and a strange burly-looking tiefling woman there now. You can actually see they stand up, the halfling's like, "Argh!" Right, come on, Charissa, time to turn in. And him and the tiefling woman begin heading up the stairs towards one of the common rooms, leaving just you stood in the bar as the half-elf leaves and goes to his quarters.
Drax gives the halfling and the tiefling a respectful nod as they head to bed and bids Audius good night.
As they're walking up the stairs, after you've nodded to them, you just sort of vaguely catch the halfling's voice as he's talking to his companion as they walk up the stairs. He goes, "He were a big bastard, wasn't he?"
Indeed. Drax will stay in the common room for a while, actually, drinking the remainder of his beer, hoping to catch sight of these creatures that the barman said. When he was at sea, he had tales of things, and it was interesting to see ghosts, if such a thing is possible.
Okay, I will point out that all the shutters in the room are drawn and locked, as is the door.
Mm-hmm. Just stop him from listening, though.
From your current position. Oh, you can certainly listen. Okay, I'll jump back to Avastar now, looking out over the mist that's gathered over the town. You hear a distant clock chiming midnight, a solemn bong, bong, counting up to 12. Mm-hmm. And you notice as each of the chimes occurs, the low-lying mist seems to be getting thicker and more dense. And eventually, as it chimes 11, you start being able to make out vague shapes in the mist. And as it chimes 12, you rubbing your eyes, you see these spectral figures clad in armor, some human, some elven, even some orcs, so stand up as though they've been crouched down in the mist. They're translucent. You can see part of the way through them. They appear to be standing in like a military formation, a block of troops holding weapons, staring straight ahead of themselves. Then as the 12th chime sounds, they begin marching in formation in lockstep through the street towards the old bridge. Their legs lost in this swirling, low-lying mist.
I'm gonna lean out of my window and look to see if anyone's controlling them. And I'm sort of whispering, "That's impossible. How are they doing that?"
Make me a perception check.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Right. What's my perception? Not very good is the answer. Okay. Oh. I get -1 as well, which is even better.
Okay. As this huge unit of troops, more seem to be joining it all the time, some of them occasionally being lost in the now very thick fog that's rising seemingly from the streets of the town. As they get level with the tavern, the Common Sword, one of them stops moving. It turns round and looks up at the window that you're half hanging out of, and you can see this skeletally gaunt, translucent face looking at you.
If I possibly can, I'm going to immediately shut the window and the shutters.
Yeah, no problem. You slam the shutters, etc. And all you can hear outside is and you will be able to hear this as well, Drax, from your position. You can hear the sound of these feet marching down the street through the town. Eventually, their footsteps are lost as they get too distant from the Common Sword for you to hear. And in the distance you seem to have been sat there for an awfully long time, and in the distance you hear a Bong.
I'm thinking of possibly going to tell Watum. I'm not entirely sure I should.
Okay, can you please make me a wisdom saving throw?
Okay. Again, terrible.
The difficulty is 13.
I got 11.
Okay. Could you please roll me a d4?
Oh, jeez.
Okay. You're quite shaken up by what you've seen, obviously, and you plot back down in your seat, sort of listening to these footfalls disappearing. And as you sit down on the chair, as I described previously, there's like a mirror over the desk facing you. You see your face staring back at you, reflected in the mirror. And it might just be your imagination, but you notice like a few extra lines and like wrinkles on your face.
I immediately feel my face, see if I can feel them myself.
You can indeed.
I have a look around for if there's like another hand mirror or something reflective.
Yeah, no problem. You pick up a hand mirror, you see the same thing in the mirror.
Okay, in that
You're
case,
not entirely sure, but you look as though you're about 10 years older.
in that case, I definitely run out of the room and try and find Watum.
Well, you know where he is. He's in the one other luxury room in the tavern, just across the way from you.
Okay, I rush out of the room and quickly on his door.
You hear pounding on your door, Watum.
Sure. So I stand up. Yes, enter.
You see Avastar nearly almost fall into the room, and immediately shut the door behind him, and say,
Avastar's
Watum,
looking quite sort of haggard.
my face. Does it look different to you?
I look it over. Yes.
Watum, but outside, I took a look, and one of the apparitions looked at me, and then I looked in the mirror and saw this.
You chose to ignore their warnings.
Yes, because you know as well as I do. Why on earth would there be ghosts randomly wandering around or patrolling the city without some kind of controller?
I am not well versed in the knowledge and handling of ghosts, but clearly the warning was one that should have been heeded. I am very sorry. Perhaps there are magics, powerful magics, which can reverse this?
I was hoping you would say that. Do you know of any?
Only that they might exist.
Well, surely you have a book about it or some contacts.
Well, as I said, only that they might exist. The magic involved to reverse such an effect is tremendous indeed. If I were given time to study it, perhaps a year.
A year?
It is powerful magics indeed.
I sort of sit down, is sort of a feeling quite faint.
I'm going to offer him some water.
Okay, so yeah, he takes the water and sort of gulls it down. There's stuff streaming down his lips at the minute. This is just a bad dream, right? I wake up and my face will be fine.
I do not think so.
You've got to help.
Oh, as I said, perhaps give me time to grow my powers, and Batonway permitting, perhaps within a year I will have such capabilities. Or we may be able to seek out others who are already skilled enough to perform such magic, but indeed such persons would be rare and powerful.
If my parents see this,
That
will be
is your
asking very
concern?
strange questions about this. Yes, it is. If I return to them anytime soon.
Well, perhaps that can be avoided until a time that you are cured. I give a wan smile. A very not reassuring smile.
Yeah, so I'm going to sort of sit there and stare into the jug or glass or whatever it is that he's given me and sort of feeling really, really sorry for myself.
Perhaps at your age, you need more rest now, as do I.
I am a half-elf. I don't need more rest.
Yes, well, I do, and you are sitting upon the bed in which I normally rest. And
Oh no, I was simply sitting on the floor. Like I didn't even aim for a bed. I just sort of half collapsed on the floor.
I let the hint linger in the air.
If you want me to leave, then fine.
There is nothing I can do for you tonight. Perhaps we can seek out such an individual that can reverse this, assuming such a thing is even possible.
That would be most helpful.
Yes, it would. Well, sleep well.
At that, I pretty much half slammed the door and storm out.
Not a problem. You head back to your room, presumably, or are you going out?
Yeah, I'm gonna head back to my room.
Okay, no problems. You head back to your room. The shutters are now shut, obviously. There's an eerie silence. Seems to have fallen over almost the entire town. I'm assuming Watum finally gets back to his book and gets some sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I was studying for hours there. I was ready to sleep.
Okay, no problems. You
These
head off
this
to a
happens
restful
every.
night's sleep.
I feel that if this, or at least what too, if this happens every night, there's no hurry. No.
Fair. Okay, and I'm assuming you all drift off to, which in most of your cases is a fairly restful sleep. In Avastar's case, probably a slightly fitful, haunted sleep. As you sleep, Avastar, as you dream, you keep seeing the face of that translucent person looking up at you, its eyes appearing to bore into you.
Yeah, I'll be sort of tossing and turning, and if I have a dream, I'm going to try and wake myself up.
Okay, not a problem. And the sun rises the next morning over Battle Bridge. As you all start waking up, you can hear there's already people moving about in the Common Sword Tavern. The people who just sort of stopped there because they were caught unexpectedly out later, sort of chucking a few coppers to the owner and making their way out, ready to get on with their day's business.
Claudius wakes up, eager, ready and eager for breakfast. So he gets out of bed fairly quickly. He doesn't need to do much to look presentable for everyone or anything. I mean, a half-orc's a half-orc. He's gonna go downstairs, order a meal, and he's gonna try and make some like friendly small talk with the occasional like person next to him.
Okay, not a problem. You open your door to head downstairs and you're surprised when you see a small envelope sat on the floor outside your door.
I freeze.
You notice it appears to have been sealed with black ink, and it is impressed with the mark of a hand.
Up. I step back into my room, my enthusiasm having turned into a sort of cold alertness.
Okay, no problem. You retire to your room with the envelope.
I pull out a fine knife that I have, and I use it to open the envelope without breaking the seal.
Not a problem. You open the envelope, and you see in fairly neatly calligraphied black ink on the page are 2 words: Samantha Lascaris.
Have I heard that name
And,
before?
Obviously, you've heard of the Lascaris family. They're the ones who are putting on this big
Big-
shindig in
those are the
5
big
days.
ass.
Yeah.
They are the money nobles who've got all the coin in Battlebridge.
Well then.
As you're looking at this letter, you notice that the actual ink appears to be sort of fading away as you're looking at it, and within the space of a minute, you're just looking at a piece of blank parchment.
That's clever. That's very clever. I tucked the letter away. And what did you say the seal? The seal looked like a handprint, right?
It was basically wax, and you know those signet rings that people use to make a mark in the wax? It looked as though someone had used one of them that was in the impression of like an open hand.
Okay. I'm going to tuck that away, then try to push that thought to the back of my head. Thinking that noble event's going to be that noble party is going to be a good opportunity, and I'm going to head down and pretty much carry out my planned morning.
So you're just sort of mingling at the minute, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mingling and ordering breakfast, although I'm doing it with forced enthusiasm now.
Okay, not a problem. You see that the half-elf is nowhere to be seen, and there's the surly-looking orc, Njog, behind the bar. He nods at you as you come down. He's like, "Morning," as he's polishing a glass.
I speak in Orcish. Morning.
He nods at you in the same language, says back, "Get you anything?"
Yeah, whatever's on, whatever you regularly serve for breakfast. Not some more meat.
He says, "Oh, all right, porridge it is then. Don't worry, I'll chuck some meat on the top of it for you." He shouts back into the sort of like the back room behind the bar. He's like, Finnan! We've got our first order of the day. Porridge. Throw a bit of that ham on it as well." You hear Finnan's half-elven voice from the back go, "Ham? On porridge?" He's like, "What, did I fucking stutter or something? Yeah, put some ham on it." He's like, you hear this voice go, "Yeah, all right, then it will be a few minutes, but I'll put some ham on it, whatever. Don't get your knickers in a twist." He's like, "I don't wear knickers, what are you on about?" He's like, "Oh, all right, I was just joking, Njog, don't worry about it, I'll send it out in a few minutes." He turns back to you and Orky says, "Yeah, it'll be a few minutes. Can't get it out these days."
I'll be sitting
Anyway,
over
you
there.
sit yourself down. Cheers. I'll get it brought over to you.
I nod at him. I go and sit down. Presumably I can have some like water or something to drink in the morning.
Yeah, no problem at all. And you sit yourself down. Drax, you're the next person to wake up in the common room. Obviously, the common rooms are shared rooms. What are you doing as you wake up? You can see the sunlight filtering through the small cracks in the wooden shutters.
Yeah, Drax comes down, gives Audius a wave, tries to get some hamless porridge for himself. It's appreciated.
The orc Njog behind the bar says, "Finnan, another porridge. Hold the ham on this one."
Appreciate it.
Finnan to go, yeah, another porridge. No problems, Njog. And he actually walks out, puts down 2 bowls of steaming porridge. You see one of them appears to have like meat shredded on top of it. Njog's like, "Well, there's yours, mate." And he picks up the other one, walks over to where Audius is sitting and plonks it down on the table in front of you. And he goes, "There you go, get that down, you. Put hairs on your tongue."
I eagerly eat away at it.
And he turns around and walks back to the bar. pretty much as you look around, Drax, you see that aside from a few people who are just leaving, like Audius is the only person in here. Most people are just going about their business and they want to get on with their day-to-day affairs.
Did you hear the voices last night, Audius? Sorry. No, go ahead, Rob.
No, you go.
As I'm eating my porridge, did you hear the voices last night? The footsteps and the
Yeah, a lot of you people came me up a few minutes later than I would have liked. Talking the end of the night. I just wanted to sleep.
Do you seriously think these people live in fear of ghosts every night?
Have you heard what the gnome caravan leader said?
Words are one thing, seeing is another, though.
What, you saw the ghosts?
I didn't see them, but
You're stupid enough to look out for them. You didn't
Didn't
go
go
outside, did you?
no. I thought about it, though. But
Well, stop thinking about it. That won't work out well for anyone.
As they're talking downstairs, Watum, you wake up. You feel it. You've had a full night's sleep. You do feel a little bit tired because obviously people kept bloody interrupting you all through the evening when you were trying to do your study and get to sleep. But you've had a full night's rest. You wake up, as I say, you can see the sunlight filtering through the small chinks in the shutters in your palatial room.
So when I come downstairs, I'm wearing a robe of the exact same cut I was wearing yesterday. It just colored differently. Almost all my clothing is like that. It's like a long robe that almost hangs down to my knees.
Alright, what?
It's underneath that. Anyway, I come downstairs. I get porridge without meat and some tea, and then I'm going to join Ordius and Drax.
When I see you, I say, Watum, you look like 10 years older. Did you not sleep well last night?
I slept perfectly fine. However, well, the Avastar, he seems to have changed noticeably. He seems very sensitive about it. Perhaps you should not mention it.
What, that he's a pretentious prick?
No, not that. That he appears to be much older. He said he looked out the window last night at the ghosts, despite the repeated and very clear warnings from the townsfolk, and it affected him. Indeed, it does appear to have aged him. It is most curious, but as I said, he seems to be very sensitive about it, so perhaps you should not mention the extra wrinkles and lines about the eyes that are...
A few moments later, at Avastar, I presume you're heading downstairs as you wake up. A few moments later, after you've finished saying that, Avastar walks down the stairs, and indeed, all of you will notice that Avastar does look slightly older. A few little light wrinkles.
Yeah, I'm not going to even look at them. I'm just going to go straight to the bar and say in quite a low-key voice, give me your strongest liquor that you have.
He looks at you and raises a warty eyebrow, and he's like, what, the strongest? Are you sure?
Yeah, what's the point anymore? I might as well drink myself to death now. Just give me your strongest liquor.
He goes, jeez, and I thought I was depressing early in the morning. All right, here you go. And he lifts what appears to be it looks like a metal bottle down off the shelf. You see there's some writing on it, but unless you speak Orcish, you won't understand it.
I do not.
He lifts out a metal cup and puts it on the bar in front of you, and then he pours out this sort of lumpy-looking, greenish, pinkish liquid into the cup, and he says, "Oh, ignore the fizzing sound it makes when it goes into the cup. Just how it is. One silver, one silver to you, Squire."
I scowl at him about the Squire thing, but I toss a silver coin to him.
Thank you.
And I sort of take a big gulp, not the entire thing.
Okay, as you lift this mug up, this loosely termed liquor inside it smells absolutely foul. It smells like a shit took a shit. Do you still scull it back?
Yeah, I'm going to hold my nose and scull it back.
Okay, not a problem. Can you please make me a Constitution save?
Yay! Sure. Okay. Oh, I get proficiency. Awesome. Okay, I get an 8.
Okay, not a problem. What happens for the rest of you guys as you're watching is Avastar walks down, has some sort of conversation with the orc behind the bar, and Yarg takes this foul smelling. I mean, you guys can catch a whiff of it even where you're sat across the room. Avastar just like knocks it back and then literally just goes straight backwards onto the floor.
Perhaps physical effects were not the limit of seeing those ghosts last night.
I rush over to
the elf falls unconscious. The orc's like,
I rush over to Avastar and I take a look at what he drunk, and my eyes go wide when I read the label.
Drax gets up quickly as well and comes to check on his fallen elven comrade.
you see the orcs leaning on the bar, and as you sort of look at the label, which quite clearly in Orcish says Skullbuster 3X, he's like, well, we don't get much call for drinking that apart from with our sort. First time I've seen an elf drink it. Oh, that's going to keep me laughing for the rest of the day.
And
It looks
it's
like
a
you've seen
rare
it
event,
first.
because this is the last time you'll see an elf drink it.
Probably. Oh, well, this will be a story to tell my mates. I'm sure he'll be fine in a few minutes.
Can Drax do some kind of thaumaturgy smelling salts to try and bring
I'm
Alistair
gonna
around?
pick. Yeah, while he's doing that, I'm gonna pick him up and try and place him in a chair, so he's not lying on the floor.
Not a problem. You waft the smelling salts under Avastar's face, you put him in a chair, and indeed a few moments later Avastar does start to recover consciousness. You feel as though you've had like an entire night on the beers and you've got a massive hangover.
Wow,
Oh, my
Avastar,
head.
that drink really took the years off you.
I look at... sorry.
Nice.
So that's what drink feels like. Maybe that's not the best course of approach.
Oh, dear, so what was that stuff?
Let's just say... It's strong. It's an orcish brand of... Let's just say you don't want to know what it's called in orcish.
Smells like the kind of stuff we used to clean our bunkers off the ships.
As you're saying that and you're sort of looking across the bar audience, you notice Njorg sort of takes a sip of straight out of the bottle himself, and he goes, well, that's a good vintage, that. And he puts it back on the shelf. Then lets out this massive belch.
I walk away from your companions and up to the bartender. How much for the bottle?
He says, well, I'll tell you what, seeing as you can, let's call it a gold.
I hand him a gold
vintage.
piece.
It's got lumps in it. You give him the gold piece and he goes, there you are, and he passes you the metal bottle and he said, I'm sure you know this, so I don't have to tell you. I'll be careful about shaking it up.
Of course.
Also, when you're pouring it, if you find any of the lumps get stuck in the head of the bottle, just give it a big bang on the bottom of it. That'll sort it out.
I know the drill.
I'm sure you do. I'm a barman. It's my job, you know. Got to make sure the customer's happy, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy.
I know what that's like. Now, believe me, I will. Smile, and I put it away in my bag for later.
Okay.
I watch him do this. Do you have some paintbrushes that need cleaning?
Trust me, this stuff's not even good for that. Let's just say if I ever see another dwarf who boasts about his propensity for drinking liquor, I can give him a run for his money.
Well, then, I hope such an event occurs. But
Me too.
this Cortus, where do you suggest we begin our search?
That's a good question. The bartender. You wouldn't happen to know if there are any academic kind institutions in this area, in this town?
He says, well, there was old Amphis. He was last night he was trying to scrape together some money to build something for looking at the sky. I met he was trying to tell me about it when he was in here once, but he's a terribly boring bastard. After he was speaking for 5 minutes, I entirely lost interest and started doing something more interesting, like staring at my shoes. But yeah, he was trying to build something to look at the sky. He's all into his books and all that sort of rubbish.
We must also consider that even if we were to slay Cortus in battle, it seems that ordinary death has no lasting effect upon him. We must find a way to prevent him from leaping to another body.
Well, if he's only able to affect the children, at least we know what kind of people he can affect. It's limited in that way. Do you think perhaps he's not strong enough to affect an adult anymore?
I do not know how his magic works, but perhaps if we can keep him separated from a possible host long enough, perhaps this person he mentions has knowledge that might provide information. We cannot resort to regular tactics, that much is clear.
I think you're right. Do you think interviewing the other children could produce any valuable information?
Possibly. I do believe it. I think he wants you to find him. Judging from the conversation I had with him while you were elsewhere.
He accused me of owing a debt to him.
And murder.
Lies. Perhaps, since this is not a foe we can slay, perhaps we will be forced to deal with him. As in, make a deal.
Or perhaps there is a way to slay him. And perhaps this boring one has some answers. Let us seek him out first, and then the children if we still need more information.
I am academically inclined myself, but since you actually know what it's like to command magic, maybe you should do the talking in this instance. Barkeep, do you know where this boring one is? Unfortunately, we have to seek him out willingly.
Oh, well. I hope you can endure his incredibly tedious conversation. But, yeah, he owns one of the towers on the North Bridge. Said he needed to be close to the skies or something like that.
Sounds like an eccentric, all right.
Oh, yeah, he's eccentric, all right. Even more than normal humans.
Look at the tomb. That I'd like to see.
Alright, so I'm going to finish my porridge, my meatless porridge, and my tea. And then let's head for this North Tower Bridge, you said?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a problem. The North Bridge is opposite the old bridge where you currently are, and as you make your way towards it, you can see that, like the old bridge, it has 3 towers although these are obviously more of human construction. They lack the purple dragonstone slate on the three towers from the old bridge, although they've quite clearly been built to emulate the towers on the old bridge. You can see there are shops, market stalls, etc., as they are on every bridge in Battlebridge, although they appear to be slightly more run down on this bridge. They don't have the sort of upper class look to them that most of the establishments on the old bridge have. There's more market stalls than permanent shops.
Well, again, I will look around like a tourist, but I will still continue towards this North Tower Bridge.
Okay, not a problem. As I say, there are three towers on the North Bridge. Which of them are you intending to go through? They can each be passed as you head on the bridge.
Oh, and it's not clear which tower you meant. Well, then I guess the first one I come to. We come to.
Okay, not a problem. You knock on the door of the first tower you come to, and a town guardsman pokes his head out, and he's like, "Yeah."
I'm sorry, I didn't write down this NPC's name.
It was Anthis.
So yeah, I will. We seek an individual named Amphis. There were words he was trying to build an observatory of sorts.
Oh yeah, that thing. Right, well, it's not this tower. It's not the next one. It's the one at the end of the bridge. Keep straight down to it. You can't miss it. It's pretty much fallen into rack and ruin. He spends all his money on books and rubbish like that rather than the upkeep of his tower.
Okay, I'm just going to nod and then start walking.
Okay, not a problem. You make your way past the guard tower at the front of the bridge. As you approach it, you bypass the second tower, and as you come to the third one at the end of the bridge, you can indeed see it looks to be slightly more shabby and run down. There are several places where slates are missing off the roof, several bits where the brickwork has obviously been hastily and quite poorly patched up.
So if there's a door to that tower, what's the size of this tower? Square, round, height?
It's square. It's quite tall. It's like a 3-story tower.
Okay, so I'm going to knock sharply on the door.
Okay, you knock sharply on the door, and a few moments later you hear a voice from inside say, "Hold on a second, I'll be there in a moment, just give me a moment." And you hear what sounds like several crashing sounds from the other side of the door. Eventually the door opens, and a wizened old man with slightly sort of straggly hair on his chin, wearing a skull cap, peeps his head out from the door and says, yes, can I help you?
Yes. It seems that you may have some information on some strange goings on in the town, specifically regarding demonic possession. Does the name Cortis have any meaning for you?
Cortis. Let me think. I'll have to consult my books. Come in. Don't mind all the papers everywhere. I'm in the midst of some important research. Just try not to knock any of them over. As you walk in, you can see there's already several piles that have obviously been knocked over on his way to the door. He said, excuse the clutter.
I'd like to just glance at the writing, to get an idea of the topic, the subject.
Okay, you see that a lot of the writing that you can see appears to be sort of tracking the movement of the stars in the heavens. There's numerous geographical and sort of mathematical equations and shapes drawn on the parchments that you can see.
Okay.
You can also see that the walls of the tower seem to be lined with bookcases which have some quite old-looking tomes on them. He walks in and he says, I'm not sure where the chairs are. I think they're under some of all this. Just find yourself a pile of books and sit down. And he pulls out a wheeled ladder to one of the bookcases, and he climbs up it, and he's like, Cortis. Now, I know I've seen that name somewhere. Just to check, by the way, are the rest of you going in whilst this is going on, or?
Yes, actually, yeah. And while this person is engaged with Watu, I'm going to have a more thorough glance through all the stuff that he all the notes and presumably books that he has lying around.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely check the spines for any sort of eye-catching titles.
Okay, both of you make me investigation rolls.
Yes.
That is a 10.
12.
Okay, looking around, you see that most of the tomes in here appear to be concerned with the movement of astral bodies. It looks as though this Anthis is engaged in some sort of project where he's trying to track the movements of celestial bodies, stars, etc. You can also see there's a number of tomes which appear to detail something called the planes. You're interrupted from further investigation when you hear the old man go, "Ah, here we go," and he pulls out a large dusty book off his bookshelf, almost falling off the ladder as he pulls this huge book off, and then slaps it down in front of the pile of tomes that he's been sitting on. And he says, "Ah, yes," and he starts rifling through the pages in this book. Cortis. Ah, yes, here we go. Here's a mention of Cortis. Cortis, one of the 5.
One of the 5 what?
Ah, yes, and he starts rifling through the same book. He says, the 5 the references aren't exactly clear. That's the problem with these old tomes. So many of them are damaged, and so much of them has been lost over the years. It's quite a fascinating subject, really. The way these books have to be rescued and the poor upkeeper.
Make a guess as to what 5 might refer to. You seem clearly familiar with many of these books. Demons,
Sir, I protest. I do not make guesses. I make hypotheses.
Oh, forgive me. I'm not from around here.
A hypothesis can be tested, right? How do you test this one?
Quite so. If you don't mind me asking, sir, I'm sorry, I must have missed your name, he says to Watum.
I am Watum, the wizard, I add.
If you don't mind me asking, I can see you have the look of a foreign person about you, if you don't mind me saying so. But might I ask where you do actually come from, sir? I'm always interested in new people.
Well, if you... we are on a mission at the moment, and it is a timely one, I'm afraid. If you're able to provide us with some answers, then I would gladly invite you to dine with us one evening, and we'll happily tell you tales of my homeland.
Oh, splendid! That'll be most agreeable. Let me just check this book here. And he rifles through the book again. He says, "Yes, there are. Now, from what I remember, there are." And he takes a couple of other small books down. There are numerous references to an organisation or a group called the 5 throughout the various histories that I've managed to compile. Albeit it's a meagre selection. Not many have survived the great weight of years. But yes, I can see they're also mentioned in connection with a group called the Trismegoi. Does that mean anything to you?
It does not. But again, what nature are these 5 or these Trismegoi? What is your hypothesis on the types of beings they might be?
Well, it's ancient tongue, but I believe loosely the Trismegoi translates as a band of 3 brothers or a group of 3. There seem to be some practitioners of the arcane, from what I can make out here. Although it's a veiled reference at best, I'm afraid.
And the 5, does that refer to demons, perhaps?
Like it could be, as I say again, it's not exact. There's a reference here to the Trismegoi bringing the 5 into the world.
At this, Drax will look at Odious and go, "Do you remember when you said 4 will become 3? Do you reckon that's correct?"
That's correct. That's what it said.
The old man runs back up his ladder and he's like pulling other books off the shelf, and he says, yes, here we go. I knew I'd seen it somewhere else. There's a reference here to one of the 5 being, I think this translates loosely as banished or removed or something along those lines. Oh no, wait, my mistake. 2 of them were removed. Sorry, it's a very old tongue.
And again, their nature is demonic.
That would certainly be a reasonable hypothesis. After all, what else would a group of practitioners of the arcane bring into the world? There's something I can't quite make it out. I'm afraid this book was quite badly water damaged. Something to do with blood and corruption of the blood. It's not very clear, I'm afraid. Like I said, the book is very damaged.
What language is it in?
Well, it's in an ancient tongue. It's been found on a number of old ruins throughout the world. I've unfortunately not travelled widely enough to see them myself. I believe in some slightly more sensational circles, it's referred to as the Dark Tongue.
The Dark Tongue.
Do you mind if I take a look at it?
He looks a little hesitant. Then he says, "You will be careful with it, won't you? It's very fragile. It's one of a kind."
If it helps, you may actually hold the book and turn the pages. I needn't touch it with my hands.
He seems to relax when you say that, and he says, "Oh yes, good, very well." And he opens the book and sort of shows it to you, and he says, "Look here, the Trismegoy bringing the 5 into the world." And you look at it and you recognise this as a written form of Infernal.
Okay.
And you can. It's quite damaged. As I say, there's a lot of watermarking on the pages. Some bits of it are ripped, but it definitely seems to be referring to a group who were known as the Trismegoy, which translates in Infernal as a cabal of 3 is the actual translation, although he appears to have mistaken it for brotherhood. It's an easy mistake to make if you're not familiar with the language. And it seems that as part of an effort to free somebody or something, they brought these 5 into the world.
Okay, so given that I used to work in a bookbindery, and I can imagine that we might have restored some tomes and stuff like that. My master was particularly obsessed with restoring old tomes. Would I be able to make, say, an investigation or maybe history check or something or maybe even perception? Probably not though.
What is it you're trying to discover?
I'm basically trying to see if I can make out the water damage stuff and make educated guesses to what the words might be and get more information.
Okay, make me a perception roll.
20?
A natural 20?
No, modified.
Hey, 20 is still good, man. Okay, peering at it and taking out some of the tools of your trade, you are able to slightly restore some of these pages. You actually notice as you take out these tools of your trade that Anthis seems to recognise them, and he actually nods at you as you're sort of applying them to the pages, obviously recognising that you're someone who knows about books, and he seems to respect you a little bit more as a professional now, rather than just sort of horrified at the prospect of a half-foot wandering and you go, "Give me your books!" But he seems to have a newfound respect for you, realising that you're obviously in the profession. You do manage to restore it slightly, although not 100%. You see that the thing that they were talking about trying to free, it says, "Free their people from the invaders," or something along those lines. You also notice the word for elf is on there.
Elves are mentioned in conjunction with summoning outside forces to get rid of the invaders. And I look around and I assume everyone knows that invaders mean GIF.
How does this connect to Corcus? How does this...
Well, I'm glad you asked. As I say, in one of and he pulls out one of these other small books. Cortis is distinctly referenced here, and then he sort of realises that he's pressing his book, and he's like, Cortis is distinctly referenced here as one of the 5. Although it is odd, Cortis is mentioned as one of the 5 who was removed. I think it says, or perhaps banished. It's difficult to tell. I'm not an expert in this language. The written form of it's very rare, you see.
the names of the other four. Are they in here?
Because, well, there don't appear to be any references directly to them by name. Cortus is the only one actually mentioned by name. That's why it stuck out to me, you see, when you mentioned it. I knew I'd read it somewhere before.
Since Cortus was removed, it would seem he has returned.
Interesting.
Is there information on how they removed him? On how they were able to stop him? What had happened the last time?
Alas, I'm afraid not. You see, this is an account written by someone. It would seem to be many years after the actual fact. The details are a little bit light, I'm afraid.
Who was
it is with these second-hand accounts.
Who was the chronicler who detailed this?
He says, I believe it was I believe his name was Vanier. Looking at his book. Of course, I didn't get it directly from it. I bought it from a travelling car to travel through here. It must be 5 years ago now. And well, I spotted this. I don't think they actually knew what they had there, but I'm a stickler for these old books. I got it at a very reasonable price. I do say so myself.
I smile at him, knowing that this might be priceless. Almost priceless to the smart people.
It does not say how this Cortus was banished. Does it say who did it?
Now your friend has been able to restore something. He says, "Oh, and thank you very much for doing that." And he takes out a gold piece and from his robes and offers it to you. Audius says, I insist that you take that as some small recompense for the service you've done me here today. Well, this throws an entirely new light on this tome. Oh, I can't wait to tell some of my fellow academics about this. Oh. Tell me, sir, are you and he seems to quite forget that you've asked him a question. He says, "Tell me, sir, are you setting up a shop in the fair town of Battlebridge? It'd be wonderful to have a permanent restorer of ancient tomes."
Yes, that kind of casual chat can be had at the meal we will have when we have solved this Cortus issue.
Oh, quite right. I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away with myself. Well, looking at this tome that your friend has been able to restore slightly, I can see that it's mentioned that these Trismagoi, these three were apparently elves of some sort. There's a reference to a descent or a going under. I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Yes, we've already made the connection there. Okay. You know that famous group of elves that made deals with demons that dwell on the ground? Come on, you've all heard of them.
I shake my head.
They're elves with black skin that crawl out of the ground and steal your children and take them to the depths of the darkest places which they dwell. I'm sure there are many songs about it.
These elves.
At this point, can you please make me a history roll?
Sure.
You did these elves or the
Okay.
elves who...
That is a
who
20.
Some of the five?
Okay, Avastar, you know that amongst your people there are legends of an ancient tribe of elves who committed some sort of atrocity that is supposed to be so great that it's not even spoken of amongst the elves who live on the surface. And for their actions, they were banished to the realms below ground, where they became twisted and evil things, shunned by the rest of your people.
I've heard of such things, yes, although we do not speak of them.
Yes, you heard of the Dark Elves.
If that's what you'd like to call them, then yes.
Well, I've never asked one what they call themselves. Perhaps
Even
that
if
old...
Indeed, Avastar.
Perhaps
Even
that
if
old
the dark
tavern
elves
owner...
were... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe that old tavern owner might know a thing or two. It's been around a long time. But, as Avastar says, they don't talk about it.
Even if these dark elves make up the three who summoned the five, Cortus was already banished, and yet he seems free again. We must ask ourselves why, and more importantly, how do we banish him a second time?
I have an odd theory as to how they do that.
Perhaps you would care to share?
Is he free if he's using the bodies of others, though?
Well, he said he was banished, and yet he has returned.
Well, you know how they're... Now, correct me if my understanding of magic is just flawed and I've been paying too much attention to stories.
I will.
How wizards have found ways to extend their lives.
Foolish ones at a price, yes.
Yes, taking energy from other sources, from binding themselves to objects, to taking lives of others to fuel their own power, that sort of thing. What if this creature was some sort of demon that found a similar way to do that? A demonic version. So after the banishing, part of them remained in this world. Well, wait, when was he banished to?
Back to the abyss, I suspect.
I guess.
But even if what you say is true, it still does not help us know how to send him back. How to prevent him from simply moving into another body. We must find a more permanent solution.
Or to find where he is right now.
Perhaps he is weak. Now, this is a big perhaps, but maybe he is weak because when I encountered him, he was possessing bodies of old, fully adult beings. But now he's reduced to only controlling children. Perhaps when he's slain, Perhaps when he's slain in a human body, he loses more of his power trying to escape its death. Does that make sense?
But if he inhabits another human body, are you prepared to slay the child?
No.
Then that solution will not work. We need another.
Unless we can bind him to another one. Bind him to something suitable. Something that can be killed.
Something that you are willing to kill.
Indeed.
Whilst this conversation's going on, what are Avastar and Drax doing?
I'm taking another little peruse at the books while our half-orc Audius is sort of trying to theorize what's going on.
Okay, one particular book, like I say, most of it's related to star charts, astronomical alignments, etc. You do notice one of them catches your eye. It says a history of encounters with the other world.
The other world? I take a look and think to myself, well, which other world? I start thinking.
Okay, actually, you flick through it. You see, it's actually a more modern looking book than the others in here, and as you flick through it, you can actually see that it's only half written, as though it's in the process of being written, and it's all written in the same handwriting, and it appears to be encounters of people who've had strange incidents where they've found themselves in some other place, and then they've somehow managed to find their way back to the normal world. The descriptions of this place vary. You see there's notes in the margins of these books talking about how people's recollections of this other world appears to be fuzzy. Some of them claim that they emerged from this other world many years after they'd entered, even though only a brief few minutes appear to have passed to them, whereas some claim to have emerged a few minutes later, even though years had passed for them. Some even claim to have emerged before the moment they actually entered this other world. And it's just, it appears to be someone someone appears to have whoever's writing this book, you might assume it's Anthis, has been taking the accounts of these people and sort of writing them down in this journal.
Okay. I'm going to flick through and see if I can find anything on this midnight ghostly march in Battlebridge.
Okay. Maybe an investigation roll.
Okay, I don't think anything. No, I don't get any bonus for that. 5.
Okay, you're not able to find anything that directly deals with the midnight retinue.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have a little flick through and read some of the accounts, since obviously it's quite interesting.
Okay, not a problem. You're reading through it. There's a large variety of different accounts in there. As I say, I've given you the sort of brief capsule version of it. You do find a description of a man, a carpenter called Jonas, who said that he was travelling from Cadell village to Battlebridge to sell some of his wares, when as he was heading across this crossroad, it was as though a mist came down on him. And then as far as he was concerned, he just continued walking down the road to Battlebridge to sell his wares. However, when he got to Battlebridge and he took the sheet off his cart, he noticed that all of the wooden items that he got inside had started to like rot and crumble away. And when he actually arrived in Battlebridge, he found that it had been 5 years since he originally set out for the town. But he had no memory of what had occurred in the intervening time.
I feel my cheekbones again and begin to realise that obviously this is something that's been affecting quite a few people over quite some time.
Okay. So Drax, what are you up to?
Drax is doing. We're doing two things during the time. During the investigation that Audius and Rudicum having with our friend Anthus, Drax was trying to think of in any instance in his clerical teachings about possession, like would the person need to be nearby? Is there certain rules for it? Like, do they need some kind of permission? For example, is there something in his knowledge of how it would work would help track this guy down?
Okay, make me a religion roll.
A religion roll. Awesome. Okay. So, I think that's a 20. Okay. So it's not 20, and it's 22 in total.
Okay, from what you remember of your teachings when you were learning the ways of Njord, what you were told was that they either required some form of agreement or the soul had to be weakened in some way or weak in order to allow these invasive presences into them.
Okay. Would I know from that that the person that they're currently inhabiting would need to be within physical presence of the person they're trying to inhabit, like hop-frogging from one body to another?
You know, there are rumours that these entities can travel a short distance. It's referred to rather prosaically in the teachings that you've heard as they can travel the distance of a human breath.
Mm-hmm. So, Drax will relate that to our two friends, saying that it would stand reason that there would be a trail of bodies that lead to this child, that we may be able to get an idea of where this creature resides. And after Drax does that, he's actually going to sort of look at the charts as well while he's there, looking mainly for any, like astrological charts, looking for signs of draconic origins, possibly things that like relating to the Gif and the origins of the Dragonborn, that kind of thing, to get an idea of where other Dragonborn may have ended up.
Okay, not a problem. You start pouring through the charts. I'm going to jump back to Watum and Audius.
Well, the information we have found so far is useful, but we do not know where to begin our search.
I think you're right. And it's irritating.
We can try to question the children, but they seem to have no memories. They are not under the influence.
And it doesn't explain one thing. Why Ray Quartus lives. Why would a being like this want to graffiti houses?
To attract
prison.
attention.
Do you-
Perhaps your attention, since you seem to have a connection.
It's interesting. I think you might be right. Could be the case. Unless the being somehow grew more powerful the more people are afraid of it. No. Too
In any case,
fairy
we
tale-ish.
must know where to go next.
Maybe
Just go ahead.
talk to the possessed child again.
If he still is. It seems unlikely that he would give us clues to his information about his own whereabouts, though.
Perhaps I can trick him. Although it's a long shot. Not
How about
even
speaking to
long,
one of
a
the
long
other
shot.
children?
As Watoon suspects, I'm going to concur with them that they probably have no memories, but there's no harm in trying.
Okay, so what are you doing, guys?
Well, I guess I'm going to leave the place if
Yeah.
once we've gleaned the information we can. We seem to have gotten everything we can in here.
I'm leaving
As you're heading out, Anthony says, about that dinner. When should I? When should I meet you? I'm absolutely fascinated to hear about your homeland, Watoon.
When the situation is resolved, is sometime after that you will get an invitation.
Oh, splendid. Well, I'm normally to be found here, so yes, just call on me. And he leans down, puts a hand gently on Audius's arm, and says, "And if you do set up shop in Battlebridge and you're doing your restorative works, let me know. I've got a whole load of old tomes here. I'd love to see some of those restored. I'm sure I'd put quite a bit of business your way, my friend."
If I do happen to decide that, you'll be the first customer.
Oh, splendid. Thank you.
Step outside. Well, Watoon, I think talking to the other children has merit, as does talking to the possessed one, but we don't know where the possessed children are. We know the other children, and we'll probably have to go to the guardhouse to find out. So, two birds, one stone. Why don't we head there? I can question the deep possessed one, and we can find out information on the other children.
I will follow you as a cub follows its mother, but not like that.
All right.
Okay. Are you all heading to the? Are you all heading there, or?
Yes, I suppose.
After I've looked at the charts for a bit, yes. But I imagine that's plenty of time while they're sorting things out.
You don't see any specific mention of Dragonborn, I'm afraid. Okay. Although, however, as you make me an investigation roll quickly.
Okay. What kind of chart is it I'm looking at? Just out of curiosity.
You're looking at what appears to be a hand-drawn map of the local area.
Okay. Awesome. Investigation. I don't have anything, so it's just a 5.
Okay, you're looking at this chart, and you see near to the village of Cadell, which has the Folaith Forest and the Folaith Marshes adjacent to it, there is a symbol. It's very badly smudged and damaged. It could be Draconics over the marshes, but you really can't tell what it says or if it even is Draconic because it's so badly damaged.
I'll make a note of it. Investigation. I give my word that I would help with this, helping this child. for future investigation.
Okay, not a problem. You all head over to the old bridge, to the main guard house there. Takes you about 15 minutes to get there. As you're heading up to the main guard tower, you can see Perseus walking out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
He nods at you as he walks out and says, "Sorry, I can't stop. I'm scheduled for a patrol."
Alright. Are we ready to see the child?
Yeah, Aldous is in there. He's still locked up. He's been quite quiet for the last half hour or so.
Alright. I take out the coin that the stork that Anthus gave me, and I flick it to him. Thanks for your help yesterday.
Oh, not a problem. If you keep flipping me a gold coin every time, I'll help you more often. And he tucks it in his pocket.
Yeah, don't tell
past you down the street.
Don't tell your partner about it, because I can't flip a
I
gold
got
coin to
it.
everyone.
Mum's the word. Mum's the word. He says as he walks off down the street.
Alright. Alright, let's head in.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll follow Ordeus's lead.
Okay, you head in. The slightly shorter, fatter form of Aldous is still in there, stood outside this holding cell where the child is. And he's like, "Oh, all right, you lot."
Yeah, we came to see the child. We think we might need to interrogate him more, and also find out information on the other children.
Oh, right, well, I can probably help you with the information on the other children. Obviously, he's still locked up in there, but he's been quiet for the last, like,
Alright.
half hour.
Alright. Well, you've been a big help. You were a big help yesterday, and thank you for helping us again. I give him a gold coin.
He's like, "Oh, well,
This is just
thank you very much."
Try not to tell your partner about this. I can't give a gold coin to everyone.
Oh, I understand. Don't you worry about it. Your secret's safe with me. At which point he says, "Yeah, he's been very quiet, very well behaved. Obviously, we gave him a bit of grubber about 10 minutes ago, but not said a word since then."
I'll go talk to the child. One of you can come with me if you want. The other two should find the location of the children.
I'll go and find some of the other children for you if you want.
Talk to this one. Point at the guard.
Aldous starts chatting to Avastar about the other kids, as presumably you head up to the door, Ordeus.
Does Drax follow me or stay with Avastar?
Drax was going to go with you.
Alright,
Moral support.
awesome. I open the shutter to the door.
You look in,
It's me
see a slightly
again.
bewildered looking. The child says, "Okay."
Do you remember the conversation we had yesterday?
Sorry, do I know you? I mean, if it's about that writing, I've already said I'm sorry about it.
Drax, do you think he's telling the truth, or is this an act?
Does Drax think he's telling the truth?
You could certainly make me some form of insight roll.
Yep. I think he is, but we'll have a look. That would be an 8.
The child appears to be being sincere in what he's saying.
He at least believes he's telling the truth. At least from what I can tell. Doesn't have quite the wide-eyed look the last time I saw him.
Indeed, rather than the maniacal grin that the child was wearing previously, he now just looks slightly worried and bewildered.
Alright, are there bars to this?
Yeah, there's like 2 bars over the shutter. The door is solid, but there are 2 bars in the shutter, so no one could try and reach through or anything.
Okay.
Instinct would make me feel that with the graffiti we've seen, that to speak to it, you may have to say its name.
Okay, I'll do that then. Then I say an infernal. I invoke your name, Cortus.
The child stares at you blankly.
Alright.
He did say he was
Step
moving on.
towards. Huh. Child, did anyone... Who have you spoken to in the last day? I know you've just been sitting in your cell.
Well, the guards came in and gave me a bit of food earlier on. That's been about it.
Alright, step towards the door, boy.
Oh, okay. This young lad steps towards the door.
Alright, I turn to Drax. Alright, bless him or something.
Yeah, I will do that. I'll give him a incantation. Would that be a religion roll? Some kind, John, or just...
Yeah. You don't have to make a roll to give him a blessing.
Yeah, I was just going to give him,
absolutely fine.
I put like a bit of like sea salt across him.
What do you say in your blessing? What are you asking your to bless him with?
Yeah. I have like a little pouch, a bit of sea salt, which has got some kind of very, very little bit of precious kind of like gold and silver in there. Nothing that would actually cut him, but like kind of just to symbolically. Yeah. And I just smear it across his head, and I say, "May you always find a port in the storm when you need it most."
The kid looks a little bit worried and concerned about this as you smear this stuff on his forehead, and then he's like, thanks.
And as I rub my hand across his head, I notice he doesn't feel like contort or kind of in pain like he was previously. He feels pretty much normal.
Mm-hmm.
As you'd expect. Now, Aureus, you remember when you said he was moving on? The likely case would be one of the guards, someone in this place. We did just pass someone who was going on patrol, didn't we?
But
I mean, that's just a supposition. He wouldn't want to stay in this cage for long.
He was the one who didn't hold him back. Which means...
If he is only able to travel to child, just was no child.
He was suggesting that some of the guards might have taken along the spirit of Hortus.
Possibly.
They're no children either.
Mm-hmm. It goes for weak souls. It may be people who do not have a strong mind. Forgive me, but these people do not seem like they are hardy.
Wait. Weak mind?
Mm-hmm.
Weak mind or weak will?
Yes.
So, I want to ask a question. If it was, Hortus was trying to take over the mind of a strong-willed, righteous man that was about as bright as a sack of nails, would it be easier or harder to do that than, say, a greedy, vile man who was intelligent?
That would all
Make
depend.
a religion check.
Oh. I was going to wing it. Ooh, nice. That's 20. No, not 20.
Okay, you think that from what you've been taught in your faith, the things that weaken a soul isn't lack of intelligence per se. It's what you would classify as sins or crimes. Mm-hmm. They inflict damage on a person's soul, is what your belief teaches. Perhaps that's what it was referring to.
To you, Aureus, it may sound like Drax is giving you a sermon now on the correct way to be a good person, but he's basically saying that what you're saying wouldn't matter. It's what a man or woman or creature does, like the crimes they commit. That is what weakens the soul, rather than their base intelligence or wisdom.
When he says it's the crimes they commit rather than their intelligence,
yeah, it leaves a mark, like a doorway.
I turn the opposite direction and run to check on that tax guy.
Okay, you run up the stairs to the first floor. You can see the door of his room. You can still hear this like from behind the door. as he's muttering to himself.
Alright. Audius swings open the door.
You see the fat man wearing the furs sat behind the desk. He has numerous sacks of money, scales, ledgers, etc. in front of him. He looks up and goes, "Oh, what's the meaning of this? I'm busy."
Forgive the rudeness. Quick question. Did you have any contact or conversation with the boy in the cell downstairs? Forgive me, I know the absurdity.
I'm a man of importance. I don't deal with vagabonds that have been dragged in off the streets. Why, the very idea of it? No!
Just a little longer and I'm like, damn, I can't tell if he's possessed or not. I shut the door. Well, I'm not budging up on the one upstairs. He's the one who's paying our money. I head back down.
I take it that the man upstairs is okay. Sensing there's no blood on your hands.
Meanwhile,
No, I wouldn't try
Avastar, you've been
fighting
given
by
a
myself.
list of Avastar, you've been given a list of 10 children's names, mostly street urchins that they've had to drag in for these graffiti offences. Most of them were just given a bit of a warning made to clean it off, and then were let to go on their way.
All right. I'm going to try and track down the most recent one that was let go.
Okay, make me an investigation roll.
Yes. 18.
Okay, not a problem. You track down one of these street urchins by the name of Peter on the list that you've been given. He's appears to be running some errands for the stall holders on the North Bridge, fetching and carrying, etc. They're paying him a few coppers for it. He's wearing threadbare clothing, has no shoes upon his feet.
Okay. Is he doing anything in particular, like maybe playing with some friends?
No, he just appears to be carrying messages and odd bits and pieces between the stalls. Every time he takes a message across or carries some produce across, they normally chuck him a copper or let him have an apple to eat or something along those lines. Then he runs off to some of the other stalls and he's like, "Oh, mister, have you got anything you need me to take to the other stall holders?" A couple of them just tell him to get lost, and he moves on to the next stall.
Okay. I'm going to watch him very carefully from a distance, but I'm going to try and ascertain if there's any sort of magic left in him at all.
Okay, make me an Arcana roll.
That's a +2. Yes. 21.
You're getting a bit of a sort of odd vibe off him, but it's very residual and very slight. Almost like an after image.
Okay. I'm going to try and move to a place where, when he's moving around, not directly, but hopefully I'll be able to sort of see his face and his eye contact, and if there's anything suspicious, I'll go up to him, but if not, then I'll assume that whatever was in him has already left.
Okay, you observe him for a few moments. The only thing you see slightly suspicious is he goes over to one of the stall holders and he's like, "Oh, you got anything you need me to take anywhere, sir? Only cost you a copper, sir." The stall holder's like, "Yeah, I need you to take this bag of coal to the cellars down there. If you won't mind, I'll treat you a copper for it." At which point the lad says, "Oh no, sorry, sir. I'd rather not if it's all right." And he heads off to another stall. At which point the bloke at the store is like looking at this coal and he's like, "All right, fine, suit yourself," and puts it back on his stall.
Okay. All right. In that case, I go up to the boy and I'm not sort of marching up to him, but I'll approach him when he gets near and I say to him, "Oh, it seems that you need some help carrying that coal." The man seemed awfully keen for you to move it.
he looks up at you with his flat cap on, and he says, "Oh no, I'm not going to be moving that, sir. I'm sure we'll get one of the other lads about here to move it for him."
But if you don't mind me saying, isn't that part of your job, to do what is required?
He says, "Well, I'm what you might call freelance, sir. Yeah, I get a bit of work where I can take it, but..."
How old is the boy?
The boy's about 13 years old.
Okay. In that case, I'm going to try and provoke him in a way and say, okay, well, in that case, I wish to assign you, since I know that man over there, I know how much he wants to move that coal, I want you to move that coal for him.
He looks a bit uncertain and sort of shifts about a bit on his feet and says, "I'd rather not, sir."
Well, why not? Is it too heavy for you?
He looks as though he's a little bit embarrassed, and he says, It's not that, sir. I don't like talking about it, really. It seems kind of silly when I'm saying it to other people."
You can tell me. My lips are sealed.
He sort of takes off his hat and he rings it a little in his hands, and he says, "Well, for the last 10 days, I've had these horrible dreams, sir."
Mm-hmm. What kind of dreams?
Well, when I'm not every night, but when I'm asleep, there's all this smoke around me, and I can smell this fire. And well, when I caught a whiff of, and you see like tears forming in the corner of his eyes, he says, "Well, when I caught a whiff of that coal over there, it just reminded me of it. So I'd rather not, sir, if it's all right with you. I'm sure you can get someone else to move your coal for you, sir."
I brush the tears away from his eyes and say, I perfectly understand. I will, by all means, get someone else.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I need to be about my business, sir. I'm not going to make any money standing it.
Can I ask you one favour, perhaps?
Oh, okay.
I'm currently residing in the tavern over there. If you have any more nightmares, let me know.
Oh, it's only the one nightmare, sir, so it's always the same.
Yes, but what I'm saying is if it does not become more infrequent, then let me know.
Okay, so you say you're at the Common Sword, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, all right, okay. Who should I ask for, sir?
Ask for Avastar Tholage.
Avastar Tholage. Oh, all right then, sir. Well, I've got to be about my business, sir.
Of course, I won't take any more of your time up.
And he scampers off to carry on pestering the stallholders.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to head back to Audius and basically tell him that even though there's some essence left, it appears that this demon has moved on from all of them.
Okay. Avastar walks back to the tower where you guys are and relays that information to you, Audius.
Okay, you already did it. That's amazing.
Sorry, say that again.
You already did it? That's amazing.
Well, I wasn't able to get hold of all of them, but I certainly got hold of the most recent one, Peter. He seemed... this has obviously affected him greatly. The same smell of the burning and the fires. He can't go near anything like coal either. It makes him scared. But he is by far perfectly sane. There is nothing inside him anymore.
Hang on a moment. I see.
Seeing this Cortus is able to affect the dreams of the young ones.
Yes, I told Peter if the dreams do not go away to let me know.
Right, and
Nice.
we're still in the guardhouse, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm going to step back to ask the child one more question.
No problem. The child still sat there, sort of, still looking quite bewildered.
How long have you been having the dreams?
He looks at you and he says, "Oh, A few nights, sir. How do you know about my dreams?
You forgot that you told me. And I walked back out. So that kid's only been having the dreams for a few nights. What about the others?
Well, Peter said that he'd been having the dreams for 10 days.
And he's the most recent?
Yes, that's right. I specifically tracked him down because he was the most recent.
The one in the cells is even more recent, and he seems to be suffering it more.
I'm not surprised, frankly.
And
Why
yet,
do you say that?
this tells us-
Well, if this demon has left Peter, he's obviously experiencing repercussions, but as I said, he is not experiencing any direct suffering. I mean, what is the state of this other child, this one that you were interrogating?
He seemed normal. Is it? Do you think perhaps Cortus is burning through these limbs? And the dreams are a mere afterthought of his presence?
I would assume it
Or
was some kind of
after
afterthought, yes, or after effect. Definitely. And the same burning that I could smell when I looked into that child's eyes, it's the same sort of essence that's left behind.
So let's think about this. Cortus has been possessing children to write his name on buildings, and when he leaves their bodies, the children have nightmares for days, and 10 days afterwards.
I believe the writing was a message to you, or perhaps to others, to many others. Unfortunately, none of this information we have learned helps us. We do not know where to find him, nor how to defeat him.
The thing that is troubling me slightly is if Cortus has left this child, and that was quite recent, then where has he gone to?
I believe he is nearby. I think he intends more business with Aureus. Judging from the conversations I had with him, he seemed like he wanted to play, or he had some kind of game in mind. I think he wants us to try and find him.
If this is a game, then can we not get several moves ahead of him?
Well, every piece of knowledge we gain is a step in the right direction. We just don't know how to put it all together yet.
Then surely we should track him down in the next body.
The next child.
Yes, if he is still possessing children. Perhaps he's moved on to bigger fish.
I don't think that's the case. There has to be a reason why children.
John, since you've been in the town for a day or so, these graffitis, is there any kind of noticeable pattern? Are they only on bridges? Are they like only on certain buildings, or look facing a certain way? Is there any kind of discernible pattern that we've noticed from looking around town?
There doesn't appear to be any discernible pattern that you can work out at the moment.
Some way to track him. Can either of you sniff out magic?
I can try and detect it when it's present.
I guess I would not call it sniffing it out, but certainly I could detect it or feel its presence.
What about you, Watun?
There are spells which allow one to detect magic. Additionally, one can apply knowledge. Clearly magic is at work here, but there would likely be other magic within the city other than Cortus's.
Well, we could station the lot of you at, heavily crowded areas, and you could search right there.
How long ago was it when you first encountered this creature?
You mean the first time?
The first time, yes.
Over 5 years ago.
Not nowhere near here.
Halfway across the world.
Interesting. Is it possible that he is following you?
Nah, if so, then why now?
Maybe he always has. People don't remember him,
well,
so perhaps
The
that is.
one problem with that theory is why then, when we already came to Battlebridge, had this been going on?
Or maybe he's here for a different reason, and that is what we need to find out. That's what keeps him here.
It can't be. Unless he's the one who killed my wife and lured me here.
Maybe.
Mm.
But he must have had a reason for coming here.
We're going around in circles with this.
Yeah. Indeed.
Am I running out of time? John,
Star says you're. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask what time of day it is by now.
It's still fairly early morning. I mean, you spent like a couple of hours doing this sort of stuff,
Okay.
but it's not even noon yet.
Right.
Hmm.
And as Avastar says, we're running out of time. From somewhere in the distance, you hear a blood-curdling scream. And that is where we're going to end the session.
Oh, of course, it's a blood-curdling scream.
I hope that session was okay for you guys. Thank you very much for playing in it.
A lot of fun.
Thank you.
Very good. And I am pleased to award you all the princely sum of 150 XP.
300! Isn't that a new level?
Yes, each, Matthew. I'm not harsh enough to go. You've got 150 XP, but it's split between 4 of you.
I genuinely thought that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Like he was being really measly, like, oh yeah, you can have 5.
No, it's 150 between all of you. And also, I'd like to. There's an offer of a small amount of additional XP if any of you think that someone portrayed their character particularly well or had any particularly cool moments during the session. Obviously, feel free to discuss that if you wish.
I think Audius deserves probably a little bit extra because I really enjoyed what he did with the thieves' cant in the tavern, negotiating with that halfling guy. I thought that was really good.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone think of anything else that particularly stood out to them as being cool during the session, or a well role-played moment that someone else did?
I like the conversation that Drax had with the twin baby.
Yeah. When I was all alone.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Ironically.
it's funny timing it that way.
Thank you.
Okay, in which case I will give Audius and Drax an additional 10 XP.
Thank you.
Okay.
And again, I hope you all enjoyed the session. Thank you very much for playing. Thank you to anyone who is watching this. We shall be returning in a couple of weeks for session 3, where the players will be presumably trying to track down Cortez and discern how they can finally deal with him once and for all. So it just remains for us to say goodbye, and I'm going to end the broadcast here. So bye-bye.